Here I sit down with my brother, Kevin Fuller. We talk about the various mystery schools we're a part of, life in general, UFOs, non-human intelligences, and what it all means for the world.
Hey, thanks for doing it. Yeah, I'm pumped. Cheers, bro. Cheers to you, bro. Oh, Traders. Brother Trader. Ooh. It's always it's funny when, like, I remember hanging out with the Traders, they're always like, you must up, let's say, brother in an email or something, and they're like, it's Noel. I'm like, you're still a brother. You had to be a brother before you got to be a Noel, right? What's the difference? Right? And they're all like, oh, they're just old man. We were talking about that before. Just, I was talking to Robbie today about some of like the old school stuff, and it's amazing how it pervades. Like, like we hear things where Masonry words, and I didn't know anything about it. So I was like, new when I started doing like, I met Robbie and all those guys doing like the 17th degree and, Scottish Rite stuff. Yeah. And it was like we were backstage and we were back there and, waiting to go on. And it was weird, I'm talking. And I only been in Scottish Rite a couple of years, maybe a year or two. And, I didn't know that you could say anything about the 33rd. You never get the 33rd, right? It's like who made up that rule? Yeah, it's like there's always something, like this underlying thing that you can't talk about or say, or it's almost taboo or something. Yeah, but why? I mean, and nobody could give you an answer. It's just like because somebody did that to them, right? I mean, if there was a valid answer, somebody popped it up on now, but I haven't heard it. Yeah, I haven't heard anything that was like, oh, it's because whatever. Dude, never. Have you? No. And usually that stuff that bothers me. It's like a kind of thing. Yeah. No, I didn't. Yeah, he's grabbed me mostly out, like I said earlier. It's like more, you call me brother. That's more, as a Freemason, at least for myself, that's more important, more endearing than I think anything else. So yeah. Well, I mean, I can call you worshipful for more. Yeah, okay. The people outside of Masonry are like, why? You're worshiping him? Everybody, everything's so crazy. I didn't see you before I began to do this. I didn't know what was going on. I know that's super cool. But, like you said, it's just like a title of your office, right? Yeah, it's just like the way I think of it is almost like military in that regard, right? What people should address you as whatever your title is, but most of it care. But you always get the sticklers too, just like, too. I mean, there's a lot of guys that spend a lot of time and they invest in the fraternity and they take it seriously, and I appreciate them all done for that. Oh yeah. And some of those I think those titles are well deserved. Oh yeah, but there's and I think it's so unique too about the fraternity itself is that there's something there for everybody. Yeah. Every man. Yeah. And so it's like, some guys like that. They like the titles and they appreciate that for who they are. And it's just not being well, and I get that too. It's respect, but right? Yeah, I get it. But the thing that always got me was like, if we ever asked about it, you're never certain. Yeah, you never think you get. Oh yeah, after we met. Well, cool. Then maybe I really don't want it. If that's really how it's going to be, then fine. I'll ask about it all day long. I'll ask him like tomorrow. I didn't get that. Yeah, how do I get into that? No, I know, but I don't know. We had that conversation today. I just grabbed my head around and leave that. And I don't know. And maybe it's just one of those things where, you get into the workplace, you get into anywhere. It's like, we've always done it that way. And nobody knows why. Everybody just does it. It just keeps happening. It's just one of those things where it takes somebody to stand up and go, fuck that. We're doing it. Yeah. Or why? Tell me why. And, well, I think like anything else, right? A lot of something was probably generational. Almost like that. 1717? I don't know. It depend on if they were nobles or were they operatives, right? And they call themselves that. They do all on those things. It'd be extremely interesting. I'm sure written documents prove that they had titles, right? Yeah. How did they feel about it? I would say probably someone who's noble. I know, they're going to probably want to be called worshipful or, right. Yeah. How do you think? Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. But you have the grand, thought that the logic of is equal, and it's always. We've always known that, and this is the way we act, and still, that everybody's on a level can get in there. So, you always hear, George Washington, who was president, very first president, you got even alive, he was still just a brother, Yeah. And, to FDR, some of the modern day presidents you met with a lodge, it was the same deal, right? It was you're the president, but in there, you're just a brother, you're not the worshipful, you still do what the worship master said, yeah, right? So, it's kind of cool. That's how it is. And I think that's on purpose, obviously, right?
Yeah, it is. And I think there's, as you look historically, right? I mean, and you look at even the founding of our country, right? I think we kind of glamorize that a little bit when it comes to masonry, and we appreciate it, right?
Yeah.
The history we have in the United States. But I think some of the ideals are really in line with the Masonic ideals as well, right? Like religious tolerance, right?
Right.
Things like that, the opportunity for equality and to be equal, and some people aren't going to I think really argue, and rightfully so, right? But I think the foundation is there, right? And I think to see that still carry out through into society today, and when we go a lot, at least myself, I'm reminded, right?
Oh yeah.
Why those things are important, and then you look at the titles and the rules themselves. I mean, we all know that's a function of the lodge, right? You're in that position to do a certain thing, and really, to me, that's more like in my capacity. Like now, it's sitting as worshipful as. Yeah, it's like I'm just a function of that position, right?
You're not the position. You're the function of it. You're the cog in the wheel.
Oh no, yeah. Next year, though, potentially be somebody else, right?
Yeah,
this kind of thing. So, it's and then too, I know everybody's different, right? Anybody that sits there is going to have a little bit of their leadership style or the way that they want to conduct things is different. And then you can appreciate that too.
Yeah, right. Knows what's up that old master mason, their worshipful master joke. It's like, well, we didn't do it that way my year.
Yeah, but that's your attention, right?
Yeah, we didn't do that my year when I was worshipful. It's it's too bad, right? And I think that's great that you can do that. Make it be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, and oddly enough, I've not heard that.
Now, you're doing something right or wrong. I don't know. I'm going to change bubbles.
Yeah.
And at least I miss the logo there. Yeah, you got to kill that. But, so yeah, man, I mean, it's so good, so back. It's sweet. Yeah. It's not wrong.
The big action. Great. It's going to start you to
The left.
and the shift that. It is shift and
Yes. I swear, I knew I teach quality. Be that.
You got it.
Creating.
And you're under pressure now too. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, being IT, you probably hanging out by yourself.
A lot of times. Yeah. Movies are out. Movies watching. Forgive everyone. I pass. With somebody over your shoulder watching you type. You notice that? You ever type and then have somebody walk up behind you and watch you and then you just forget how to type?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, there's people like me. I'm a type watcher. I'm going to analyze what you type, and if you're not very good at it, and I'm not there's no way I could type. Yeah, someone who does it every day.
Yeah.
I'll judge your typing.
Yeah, don't watch me typing.
Oh, well, man.
Yeah, I remember being in college and just man. One of the professors at the time was awesome. He was his name Skip, and I was typing the same deal, right? And typing. Dave, suck at this. Yeah, you'll get better. You're going to be doing this for the rest of your life, dude. You're going to get way better. Yeah, I think that's true with most things. To just figure it out.
I both I played FPS, right? Where I was playing, first person shooters, and I got the point where I was, if I was typing a chat as one-handed, I was typing one-handed.
Yeah.
And not that I'm super cool, right? Nerdy pro because I play first person shooter game.
Now, it's amazing that people so I was trying to get this rig set up, how most of the stuff set up for shooting, most of it's set up for to have somebody, a camera on somebody, and then the other is them playing a game. I'm streaming that.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know. If I'm not playing it, I'm not watching somebody play a game. That's just me maybe as a bold. But my nephew was 13.
You just watch people play games. Yeah, sit there and watch. And then my son is I was a little younger, but not so much now that I know of me. Yeah, that was weird. I'm like, I spend my time watching some guy, play and then get mad and angry and throw things. I can do that on my own.
Yeah. I mean, I think it'd be interesting if it was like they're trying to like beat a level or like see a trick or, something that you're,
right.
Like a cheat thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Just watch you with that. And it's like a multi-million-dollar each. There's like leagues of people play like esports.
Yeah. And that's fantastic. Up into itself. It's just, that's cool. I mean, that's showing, I feel like too, because I've heard, people say, I can't believe this, I'm like, you see people in high school, kids in high school, right? They're like, they're doing this thing, and it's a sport, right? Yeah. Because these like older guys who like complain about it because that's not a sport. I can't believe they do that. It's like,
you do it.
Yeah. No, pick up a mouse and a keyboard and shows through things. Yeah, but just
it's good.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, just the appreciation because I still play. I played Battlefield. I was kind of like got into that back in the 2000s, and then I kind of stuck with the series.
Just kept playing it.
Yeah, semi suffering through the new one. Off coming out, and it's the real. We was getting a ton of complainers and stuff like that. It's not the way it was in the last game. Yeah, not how I did last year. That's how I did last year. My year, right?
The thing that got me was, and this is interesting, is like to get the guys that do drones for the Air Force now, they use Xbox controllers.
Yeah,
like legit. Like those guys are flying the Reapers and Predators.
Yeah,
what's an Xbox?
They felt kid. I mean, it makes sense because they grew up. They're familiar with it. Yeah, so it makes total sense.
And then that's though, I mean, like, it makes sense, but to think that, you're 10 and playing Battlefield, right?
Yeah.
Drone strike or something, right? And then you join the Air Force in 18 and for years.
Yeah. They're doing it for a living.
Yeah, but you've done it most of your life anyway.
Yeah.
But now you're telling people.
That's it.
I mean, it's
and then you we probably go on that road too, but probably stay away from. But there's like that you're not in the position, you're not like looking somebody in the eye.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it's dehumanizing many cases anyway, right? But that's always a scary thought, right? And then you get into robots sneaking over the world and
slippery slope.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's slippery slope. Now there's always that.
Yeah, I don't know. I have this like, this is like a work in progress. We do everything, and so we fuck it up and make it work. Right. And
I like it. I still think we should did it outside the hot tub. I think so. Interviews in the hot tub.
UFOs in a little hot tub party?
Yeah.
Like G. Brown said, we have to party?
Yeah. I think that was one. So like if anybody's watching has got this far into this video, we watched James Brown hot tub party. It was a Saturday night live skate. Right?
Yeah,
it was the first time I ever seen it. It's hilarious.
Yeah, too hot tub.
Yeah,
that's great, man. It's classic. Well, you're right. Maybe we should do it in the hot tub. Yeah, no hot tub. That'd be great. With some waterproof mics.
So, yeah, right. Yeah, and really, that's what you got to do. All your guys now, like just come on over. But this is the rules.
Yeah,
you gotta hop in the hot tub.
That's it.
Yeah,
you sit downstairs, have a couple of whiskeys, and then you get in the hot tub and finish the interview. Well, tell me what you think about it.
Right?
I love it, man. That's super rad. It's super rad. So one of the questions I get all the time on Twitter, man, all the time, it was about Rosicrucianism. Rosicrucianism Masons. Like everybody thinks that we're either, taking over the world, worshiping the devil, that whole gamut. Just the old boys club and, all that stuff. And, I try to like point into like the cool stuff that we do, right? And things, and obviously, secrets or anything, but I mean, it's not really that much secret, right? The things we're doing laws are secret, the signs and things like that, symbols. It's hard. I mean, it's really hard for me to put it into, words to try to describe to somebody who's not been a part of it, but without trying to sound like I'm just trying to not say anything or be coy or whatever, right? It's hard for me to like try to go with like a description what it is for me, or what the actual, we can read the organization, tell you what it is, do you have going to
Website, yeah, generic meeting. Well, I mean, it's great. A meeting that was directed for the public.
right, exactly.
Look at the start. That's where you start.
Yeah, but honestly, I think, and I know how you feel about this, but I think that, like, it's different for every single person. That's it. Like, no matter what the experience is, whether you're a Mason, whether you're Shiner, whether you're, Saturday, or even Electrician, where we're in, it's different. Like, my experience is really different from you, and anybody else. I mean, we have a shared experience that we all share, and, there's a template or a mini theme, or, obviously when you go through the grades and degrees, there's outdoor and symbolism is all there, but the way I look at symbolism was different than possibly you and all those things. So I guess, how would you do it if somebody asked you what it was? Like, what is it, what is this, all right? CF, what does that do through the right? What are you guys doing in there? And this is me, I know already, but you know what I mean? Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you describe it?
Well, I think, and recently I, put together a lecture on Rosicrucianism. Right? We had potentially talking about that. Yeah, tonight. So and then the reason why I did that, right, it was because I'm 5-year base. I'm young, right, compared to many that I've met in fraternity, but I noticed there were other younger guys getting in, right? And they were doing, the Google searches and everything like that. And there were people saying, you find these things, right? You find Rosicrucianism, and you find, there's a lot of fallacy. There's a lot of things out there that are, they exaggerated certain things. And you have like modern organizations they're practicing, right? And then you have, where did it come from kind of thing. And it's hard to like look up Freemasonry, especially if you're digging deep into it and not come across Rosicrucianism.
Right, yeah, so you're so intertwined, right?
Yeah, so you see some words too, yeah, you'll see that pop up, right? And it's like, why? And for somebody who's newer, and why is this? What does it mean, right? So, that whole lecture was based, I took, two Masonic authors, right? And just kind of like gave their stance. 100 years apart. These guys lived 100 years apart, and just to kind of, from their perspective, kind of laid it out from their perspective, and included some stuff. Christopher McIntosh, he's just got some fantastic stuff. On that topic. And then you've got Francis Yates, right? And their work, which is and I try to kind of place a little bit of everything. There's some historical stuff. We got. Like name people is more of a mystic, has that mystical element, right? Right. And then you have the academic, right? And so you have a little bit of all this kind of stuff going on.
I think, sorry to interrupt me, I think there's like, there's always a separation, and I say separation, but I think because Rosicrucianism is like a blanket catch-all at some point, because there's so many different Rosicrucian organizations, right? So I remember of the SRICF, which is the Masonic branch of Rosicrucian, right? So you have to be a Mason, a Mason to be in the branch, but there's supposed to be AMORC, and AMORC, right? Yeah, we're missing. There you go. Okay, so but that's open to men and women, right? And it's we're not Mason of a Masonic affiliation. So there's different organizations, but they're all new like a Rosicrucian. Yeah, right. So, sorry, everybody just gets caught up about that. They're like, well, often you can't have women in yours, but they can women. And it's like, listen, we in the Masonic branch. This, so there is, and there's probably definitely good reasons for all these things. But sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to point that out because I always get that question. They're like, well, those guys are Rosicrucian. Well, okay, cool. But I don't know what they're doing because I'm not a member of that. So, but. Sorry. Yeah, well, kind of just said, no, you're really not, because it really kind of hits on some good points. I think, like, with all those organizations, like any organization, and the things that we're familiar with, and Freemasonry was like the initiatory process, right? And you have these foundational elements of all these different bodies, right, that make up one that kind of set the stage for further, exploration or discovery or study, and however you want to call that, Right. So I think like that's important to maybe take into consideration. But if you go back like historically to when we know
obviously what we would call Rosicrucianism. Right. You're looking with a late 1500s, early 1600s, right? We're looking, you're focusing in on that time. And if you can kind of direct people to that, if somebody's real validation, right, we'll find some stuff. And, there's people out there that practice. They put some of the stuff to practice, and there's people that, they're study groups, or maybe you call yourself a Rosicrucian, right? And honestly, like, mainly people all kind of goes down that, right? In my lecture, I would joke about it. I said Rosicrucians in name only, right? And I was just kind of making, this slide on the cannibal reference at the time, but and it wasn't really a jab at anybody. It was kind of just just to get the smirk out of some people, to keep people's attention. So some of the guys are like, some guys, I'm down in language. Just want to get out of there, like you can survive. I respect that too. I'm not slandering those guys, but it was kind of, it goes back to like the practical elements of what do you do. I think, and it could be just like masonry too, in the sense that you can become a mason, right? And are you really mason? Is the title and doing the work in the lodge and paying dues, does that make you a Freemason? Right. You could, I think it's the same thing like Rosicrucianism. Right? But if you look at the time period in general, you just kind of sit back and you look at wide walls, and just kind of take everything in consideration. The historical elements, really, it almost, they point you to a time where they were individuals, you had a lot of stuff going on at the Protestant church, right? And you had and you had the Catholic Church, and you had James. He was trying to bring, I think, Europe together at the time, and there's some merit. It's like, it was the Enlightenment. Yeah, because and for people that were studying like the Hermetic arts, right? Maybe astrology and alchemy was, alchemy was thriving at that time. Or theology, right? Yeah. So those things, there were people working with those, right, and studying those things, and I think it was running afoul from the establishment, whether that be whatever church, whatever it is. It was kind of in the shadows. I mean, that was probably the first time in history where it was still being used in the upper echelon of society, but it was at the same time shunned by more of the religious organizations as far as witchcraft or sorcery or something like that. It was the beginning of that whole saga, right? I mean, it was then when maybe we shouldn't just be out on the street almost. Yeah, and that's why, like, alchemy, right? I think a lot of those people, I mean, in some places it was outlawed, right? You practice and you're in trouble. That's why they did things in secret, right? They were worried, they'd be persecuted for, doing those things. And the goal is to get, to get sponsorship from a noble or from somebody that's going to not only fund your work, right, but also, like, handle your political affairs, right? Like, keep you out of trouble. Make sure you're not being burned at this. Yeah. But I mean, if you look at somebody like John Dee, right, like, he had that and then he lost it, right? And he died poor. Yeah, he did that, so, you follow the favor easily. Yeah, very, very easy. Yeah, and when you tell the king or the queen the wrong thing, right, and your head's on the So, but yeah, I think really, I think I kind of try to hone in personally. If I could go down like a personal avenue, that is more so into the practice, right? It's more so into the potential that there's an opportunity to build your relationship with divinity, right, and strengthen your relationship, through Christ, right? And that's for me. I feel like it's very powerful, and to discredit some of the Hermetic arts and to just shove on the side and say they're not relevant. I mean, to this day, I think we're still seeing things, and I was talking with some friends the other day, and we talked about the difference between like the intellectual and the mystic, right? Obviously, maybe you can consider potentially polar opposites, right? I mean, the science and the religion. Exactly, yeah. And it kind of led us to that conversation, right? So years ago, Mesopotamia, and you take that, their astrology, right? And you take some of the things that, at that time in science and religion were unified, right? Their science was a religion.
Right.
Yeah. And if you kind of incorporate or consider like Platonic elements, they were providing answers to things that you couldn't see, right? Of course, the metaphysics. So I think, like modern science, right? Like you want results, right?
Right.
That was always like kind of a joking argument. It's like you're always finding somebody who's proving someone else wrong, right? And you're finding something else that was causing this. That's you. So you're constantly improving it, disproving.
Yeah.
Other people's theories.
The scientific method. I think we put so much, and that's when it gets to like the phenomenon. We just UFOs and paranormal, any of that stuff where it's not repeated, and it's almost like it's true at the same time. Yeah, because you'll have these experiences where it's not. It doesn't follow you can't follow the scientific method to prove any of the stuff. It's where you still have the evidence. You still have all of these things, but there's no repeatability.
Yeah,
it's just like you're missing that whole piece of it, and almost and for more people are getting into it, and the research, everything. That's like it's almost on purpose. It's almost just like
you never prove it, and you never prove I exist.
Yeah. It's almost like good luck. Like it's just 20.
Yeah,
and but in the same context, if you take out the scientific method, you keep everything for the scientific method, and you just replace it with religion, right?
Yeah.
Then there's nothing wrong.
No, not at all. I think even for the, you look at Freemasonry, right? And we've had many discussions of why you can't be an atheist, right? A supreme being, higher being, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I think there's something to be said about it, right? And you can talk about whether it regards to, the obligations that you have to the fraternity. You could talk about, somebody to answer to, right? Or something to answer to, right? In the case of like my moral advancements, right? So, I think that's like having something. I can't, and this is coming from somebody who can't imagine not having it's something, right? That I believe, right? I would argue, although I couldn't prove it, that it exists, right? Like God, one, all, then whatever you want to call it, right? And it always kind of like the way I try to explain that is like, it's like trying to, like, let's say you've never had chocolate. Say most people, like you go to and ask people, do you like chocolate? Not many people are going to say, most are, you're like, heck yeah, right? Yeah. Because I'd actually had, some of my friends who got into the, whole like late night religious discussions, it's that true. And that, but then, you present this thing and I said, well, I know what chocolate tastes like. I know it is. As long as it's great, it's good, it tastes good. Yeah. But see, you've never had it, right? Like, how could I describe chocolate to you? It would almost be impossible. And so unless you have it, or in this case, you would experience it, how would you believe anything that I'm saying was true, right?
Right. And I think that's where a lot of the UFO thing is, honestly. For a lot of people that, they take each other your paradigm so quick.
Yeah.
Even if you are religious, even if you're, whatever, right? Even if you do believe in a higher power or you don't, it still is so shocking to your psyche that you're just like, well, if that's possible, then anything's possible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If that light in the sky or that thing that I saw or that thing I saw come through the wall or, whatever, the experience I had, happened, and anything's possible. Right? Yeah, that's kind of what it is. I think that, like you said, you have to have that moment, you have that personal awakening.
Yeah.
To realize that there's a bigger world outside of the earthly, right?
Yeah. And same thing too, like you talk about, like say you went down the paranormal path, right? Like, you have a skeptic, I don't believe ghosts are real, and that, so one throws something. Shit. How that?
Yeah, that was the house is creaking in.
Yeah,
I'm trying to explain everything.
Yeah.
And I think
in the Western culture, we're there. We're always like, okay, it's not it, or whatever. But the Eastern culture's had it figured out. I mean, which the majority, they're cool with gin, they're cool with all these other things that the guest, and they're always there. I mean, it's just part of their society. It doesn't stop them from being, humans that can contribute to the society that just believe in things that aren't there. Yeah, but right, to no detriment, right? I mean, there's nobody saying that because of these beliefs they're, shunning whatever their responsibilities are. They believe in the things that are there, and a lot of people do. But when it crosses this threshold, people just lose it sometimes. So yeah, and I know, I think maybe Masonry kind of is one of those things for them too. It's like, well, I don't know what it is, so it's bad, right? If you could say it's good, but and the other thing I get to is you don't know. You're just, you're a low-ranking Mason. Yeah, you don't always down to the top. It's up there. You don't know what's going on at the top is what's real. Those guys are really up there, blood sacrificing and whatever. It's like, hey, these guys. Like, yeah, you know that I do. Yeah, and this, and I will jokingly say that, but I think there's some truth to the fact that, like, we're really to tell someone. We'll go back to, like, kind of what you asked me. If I go back to how do I, like, describe your basic, like, we're just a bunch of nerds that love to hang out. Like, that's how I say it. Yeah, I kind of phrase it. And I think to some degree that's true because, you go back again to the things that people enjoy out to fraternity. But, right, like I was thinking of, like, Rosicrucianism. Well, I think there's, the spiritual element, right? And that, to me, I think is what's fascinating. That whether or not, you find that SRICF or, maybe you take some of the things you like learn and while you are able to maybe dial it up a little bit, right? And or look in other areas where you potentially not had for, right? I mean, I think that's the thing where we all know that Masonry offers any religious aspect rather than be any type of religious on people in a higher power, right? So taking all those into account is welcomed and like encouraged. To be able to look at the whole picture, right? Where you start narrow down to just Buddhism or just, Judaism, but anything, right? We just kind of have the whole picture. We do that, we start seeing kind of themes. That are massive, right? We're more alike than different. Yeah. On a much wider scale than we even know, right? And most people it takes some actual study and some open-mindedness and some actual, care, work, and part to just be okay with that. Because for millennia, been trained to say, my religion is better than yours. We people are whatever, and you really are. You're socially conditioned by those, institutions for virtue of this act, right? Oh yeah, totally. So I think that's and that kind of leads me to another point. You mentioned about like the so like UFOs and stuff, like seeing it, right? Yeah. And then not, or just trying to find and make an excuse for why, and really what that is, and and we started in on that, but I feel like it scares people, right? Oh, it's a breakdown of their current reality, right? It's like I can't fathom this. Because if I believe that's true, then all these other things that I believe to be true are now false, right? Right. So I think there's a lot of people get scared of those things, but yeah, I mean, it seemed that likewise in it, you kind of brought up the religious example, and I think it's same with religion too, right? I mean, if you're, and I'm not slamming anybody here, but if you're an evangelical Christian, you're probably gonna not, you would probably think like Buddhism or Hinduism or Islam is not, they potentially, I'm sure there are people out there that probably demonize those other agents, right? And they look at it from that aspect. But I think if you break down the teachings, right, and the things that should hit home. Right, the influence of the Holy Spirit, right, and the guidance of the prophet, all these other things that come along with the religions and the things that make you. I think it's instinctively, right, a good person, And morality, I still find that, I guess you could go down the whole, like, like the evolution, like why isn't everybody stop killing each other, right? And, things like that of like, is it just because I don't want that to happen to me? We go down all this at the past, but we know there's an underlying truth, right? That really kind of, that brings all those things together. If you take the time and are open-minded enough to really kind of look into it and approach it objectively as opposed to, it's like your preconceptions.
Yeah, or your conditioning, right? Yeah, whatever, right? Yeah, and I think that's true, and I think that without, I don't think I'm giving away any secrets, but I think that in Rosicrucianism, it allows you to look at that picture, that different scale, right? It encourages you to look at the breadth of all those things.
Yeah,
and maybe somebody has already, right? Like maybe that's already been done, and maybe that's not something that you have to do, but you've been piggyback on, and like, okay, these are the things that are important. And these are the commonalities, and here's the he derives to them formula, or see that, but Iran, but unifying aspect rule there, right?
Yeah.
But then again, it's always subjective, right? For me, it's one thing. For you, it's completely different, right? But at the same time, I think that, studying all those things. I mean, think about it. We go back to the 1500s. Think about trying to hear Catholicism. Try to embrace another religion, right?
Yeah,
at the time. Yeah. I mean, there's literally wars over these things. Yeah. So, I mean, you would just be automatically labeled a heretic, inverted, and a stake probably. So, it took a lot of guys, from sacrificing a lot of stuff for a lot of years to be able to first know enough to be able to know the importance of the study of these other things, to document it, to practice it, to carry out, to embrace it, to learn it, and to pass it on. And it's amazing, and we look at it, it's thousands of years, right?
Yeah, thousands of years. But I think in a lot of cases too, right? And that's one of the things that comes up with Freemasonry, was like, it's a secret society. And while we have things that we consider secret, only many of those things, I think it's so good. Just kick the butt there. Kick the,
is this some point in it?
Yeah, it's a scoop.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but, the whole secret society thing. I mean, you think of like the symbol, go back to it was a crucial, the symbol of the rose. Like, it was a symbol of secrecy,
Yeah.
And you would see that thing, a rose in the confessionals, right? And, there's many illusions, right? Or many, we can really get in mystically into the rose and what it means, right? Right. I would say that's part of it. Well, and I don't think it's something you can necessarily explain, right? Like, you have to delve into those things, and that's to get where that practice is.
Yeah, and then sort of piggyback on that, the practice is massive. But not only the practice, but the ritual, right? So, like the ritual that I went through, right, through the thing Rosicrucianism called grades. Yeah. So 30 degrees of Masonry grades of Rosicrucianism, but it's basically a magical ceremony, right? It's an experience that you actually have to go through.
Yeah,
it's an altering experience.
Yeah, and that's what initiation I think should be, right?
Yeah.
So when you say magical, I mean, somebody hears that, like, oh my gosh, we're going back to the witchcraft, and we just tried to develop, right?
Yeah.
It's more in the case of like ritualistic, in the sense, the magic really comes from the impression.
Exactly.
And that's where it's like, I've never, experienced something like this before, and you're leaving things imprinted, right, on your mind that, you're not going to forget, or, and while some of those things may be things that you don't know, you go, I would say that you should, go revisit those things, look into, right, and it's prompting you, or pointing at certain forms, right, and that's like, with Freemasonry, we use symbols, right? Because that symbol means, well, we give you the superficial meaning of the symbol, but, you know, if it just sits there, but he does nothing, you don't use it, you know, doesn't really mean it, right? We can call it that, but you're not really using the tools, right? That's why I think practice is so important, right? Yeah. So I think mainly PL had a little bit of that. I think I kind of feel that, like, probably the pain he was feeling, right? Because he's looking at all these things, the Western mystery tradition, all these things that were passed down, and people that, you know, did carry on these traditions, that did save and hide these, you know, hide documents, right? Because they didn't want to be right, like you mentioned, they made it through there, and it's like all this hard work that, you know, others did to get us, well, potentially where we are, you know, or to shed some light where it's like, hey, look here, call them, you know, before a future generation.
Right, yeah, it's just like a repository for the knowledge that they wants us to be embraced.
Yeah. So I could see him as a practice, like a mystic, right? Like, I think it's, you could probably can see it. And most of his work is leads that way. And then Mackey was the other guy. I didn't get his stuff, but Mackey was the other guy that I used in that. Oh, right. With discussion. And they're two different, totally. You got a mystic and you got it's more like a, kind of like a statesman, a discusser. Yeah, right. You know, and it was just, not that I say that he didn't lean that way. I don't like heavy, like, mystic leaning. I would suspect it probably did, but
he wrote the dictionary, like the first, the dictionary. Yeah, and the Matt, he was the guy that was like, okay, we're just going to write all this down. Yeah. It was like an encyclopedia. Basically, he just used the Encyclopedia Britannica for the mystery school, right? And it's like, it's a star, and it's, what do you say it was? You know, what's the definition? Yeah, what's the definition of that? What do you think?
Yeah.
No, that's not. So, yeah, but when you practice it, and that's the big thing, is like, the experience for me has always been, like, in Masonry, even Scottish Rite. I mean, it's the allegory, symbolism, it's the actual practicing of the degrees of there's something going on about that. I mean, it wasn't just somebody who slapped it together. Yeah, it's the way that it's conducted and imparts on you subconsciously, consciously, spiritually, metaphysically, whatever you want to call it, right? There's something, like you said, there's something that happens, and you can get the base root definition of what it is, but I think each person goes through it differently. And I always said, and it's a joke, I mean, people think it's a joke, but when I went through my first 3 degrees, you know, there's a part where you're not answering. Somebody's answering for you. And you ask questions, answer for you, but I knew the answers. And I didn't know I wasn't supposed to say the answers, but I didn't know the answers because I was like on the internet, right? Yeah. It just seemed like, well, that's the answer, right? Yeah, and I was just saying it out loud. And, I guess in the end, like, well, we and your family's Masons, like you said. I'm like, nobody. Well, how'd you know this? Well, that'd be cool. All right, cool. So, yeah, like, I was back. Like, I was like, all right, cool. Yeah. You know, to me, I was like, all right, cool, I'm back. Like, I get it, you know, and people think, no, it's true. It's exactly how I felt. I was like, when you ask me a question, I didn't know, nobody said I wasn't supposed to answer. No, so I was answering, right? All right.
And they thought of, like, reincarnation. So was that year before, or, you know,
yeah,
especially when you have that, like, welcoming feeling, or that feeling of, like, well, being where you should be, or
right at the warm, like, oh, home, feeling, yeah. So that's what Masonry for me, you know.
Yeah.
And I got in it to be like, I'm gonna tell the world about, like, people drinking, Satanist.
Yeah, that was kind of funny, because I remember, and I kind of, like, get the joke now, but it was like, I think that's where you kind of do some damage. So, like, when we joke about this thing, especially with, like, a door Mason, right? You know, it's all craft, or even a new Masonism, because I was like, somebody jokingly said, and, I think it was the sucker was, before, I think it might have been craft to lead to me, jokingly said, like, don't worry, we'll have the goat ready for it, or something like that. Yeah. Well, I had to say, beat sense of humor, I would like to think, and that went over, well, me, I laughed it off, and I didn't feel that. But there's some people out there, they're like, they hear that, or they're within earshot of somebody, so I think it goes, and back to the whole thing, like using the tools and how do you conduct yourself as a Mason, right? I think that's
Well, it goes back to that new thing we talked about too, or like, or the kind of like, the prodding or like the, the, I don't know. Yeah. Even though it's probably not needed, but it's just what I was saying. So we've always done it. Yeah. Yeah. Here's the guy that, same thing, man. I'm going for my Belgrade degree, and the guy was 98, Boston guy, right? So we've been feeding the goat tax for about 2 weeks, but we got him out back, and I'm like, there's a whole lot of wrong with everything you just said. But, he was a great guy, but it was just hilarious. But I mean, like, he literally was almost 100 years old, and he ended up in Mason with his grandfather. Yeah, all the way back. It's just like, so we could totally argue with the guy like that. You're just like, okay, yes, okay. Yeah, all right. I guess that's how you think that. Yeah, and he was telling me stories about the Spanish-American War. Oh, yeah. You can't go back to that one, right? Yeah, so, I mean, great stuff. But, yeah, I mean, it's just... But I think it's awesome that we could find each other like friends, Yeah. Like, then all walks of life. And
because there's no way, and I see that, with many of the men in my lodge, right? Yourself included. I don't think we may have run into each other, many years ago, but I don't think like now where we're at, like we probably never come across each other. Mason or Freemason, we brought us together one. Right. And there's this like no sense of like hierarchical, like I could be living, in a tent somewhere, and, you could be living in the fanciest mansion, and we'd still hang out, have a good time.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing I think about Freemasonry, right? Is you have all this, you find this common ground, and then, or you run into somebody while you're out traveling, say you're solo, and you see somebody with a ring on, or a cap, and you start talking. Next thing you know, you guys get shut up, and it's 3 hours later, and you're still talking about masonry, and
yeah.
And the outside rules, like, they're talking about the same, So, but again, that goes back to the whole nerd factor.
Yeah, there's a bunch of nerds.
Yeah, it's wait, going back to like the mystic way, like I think mainly P. Hall, right? He was frustrated, right? He was frustrated because people weren't practicing it, or
it gets to the point where I think you're right. I think I'm sorry to wrong. I mean, you did all this work, but if I understand, it's like you get to the point where if we're doing the actual work, we have to hide. So we're hiding it. Yeah, hide it into a place where we can find like-minded people that were doing the same thing. We understand that the dangers, we have to hide it, but keep it unchanged, unmolested for the practice, right? Or the ritual made that we bastardize it, right? So how do you do that? Or do you have like-minded people that come together and you chose to that, this do it, and there you go through it. It's the practice, right? It's the, how do we do something that where we necessarily can't write all this down, right? How do we keep the secrets? How do we keep the knowledge going from actually doing these rituals and these degrees, right? How do we do that and keep it in place where it's not something that could get into just like, burn like the Library of Alexandria, she's just gone, right? So it's just each man, right? So that it continues down per man. You're at time. And we got really good at doing that. And the people that were part of that, and we all know this, that were the builders of civilization as we know, right? We have people that held the shit together. Sacrifices, did things, were leaders in the community, all this stuff, right? For forever, right? Up until this day, to this very day. And it got to the point in society where that was looked upon as like another rung in the ladder to achieve as somebody that's standing in society. And said it didn't, but they were a Mason, but they made their own way in life, and they became, they got rich, they invented something, right? But like, well, I got everything in the world now, but these people do, and why can't I be part of that group? If they're so mighty, why can't I be part of that? Yeah, so then they want to join, right? They get in, but then it's not what they thought. Right? They got in as like, because they wanted the title, they wanted to, the claim, right? But they got in there and then, I'm not doing this shit. Yeah, I'm going to pay my dues and I get to wear the ring and I get to be bright guy, but I'm not going to believe it, right? Or study it or whatever. I'm just going to show up. Yeah, and the money, but now I have this type, right? At least, man, he'd be all at that point was probably, that's who he was pissed off about, right? Like, there's thousands of years of people getting hung for this shit. in the support heat, and invalid, and everybody's just fucking around with it. Right?
And I think you just see by that, so it's right. He took it serious, and he probably was. I would say he was putting it to practice. So
Yeah, I think he was.
yeah. So yeah, I mean that's.
But he did he did a really good job of putting it to practice, but also writing so much, and like getting even more touch, like more top of mind, and getting all that out there to the other Masons, heuristics, or people or whatever, so that people know who he is. I mean, he would give lectures to people that weren't non-Masonic lectures. I mean, you could listen to really utter things. Idiots, but it was 1910. He said, and he didn't get lectures, but but I mean, he's doing it,
Yeah, and some of those things that I think are cool about that, like that lecture we did, it was after our stated meeting when we had someone that was a Mason. Was it? While we're talking about people who were Masons, then we're talking about Freemasonry itself. But I thought it was kind of special because you had somebody who was inquisitive that had that sort of like mindset. They came in with a bunch of questions. We had a little bit of knowledge in Western mystery traditions, and it had a bunch of questions, which was fantastic, right? And it probably aligned to you back, so maybe it's I think what it was too is it was I think sometimes people, and it goes back to kind of like what you just said about why people join, right? Why they join a fraternity? They think that I think there's the element, like you said, where you have somebody's going to join, right? And they think that they're going to be in this, business that, that are going to advance them in society, right?
Right.
And I think it's too on the same way that the path of like someone who may have a little bit of background of again the mystery traditions, Western esoteric tradition, and they have their preconception if they're not a Mason about like what potentially Freemasonry is or what it could be, and then when you're potentially maybe not as excited about it as what you thought you were, like they run away, right? But I think all the safeguards the fraternity has in place, it's those are important too. I don't want to bounce back and forget some
Rosicrucianism, but we are part of the Rosicrucian, the Masonic Rosicrucian branch. And so I think that's saying something. Not saying that the other ones are down. I'm just saying, like you said early on, is that we've gone through degrees, we've gone through, we've taken all this, got to the point where we kind of are well aware of that this, and security is not the word I'm looking for, but the special is the rate of it, right?
Yeah.
Of how it is, then, it's not, we're always looking, researching, we're studying, we're learning. It's not something, it's not something that you can ask to join either. I mean, that's the thing.
Yes.
It's invitation. It's invitation only now. And like, I didn't know it existed until I was next.
Yeah.
But that didn't, because I wasn't looking for that. I was doing that with my lonely, the research and study. Where does this lead? I'm thinking of the list that come in, leaked on me, right?
Yeah.
So that's cool, I think, where, it wasn't me just trying to grab a title or whatever. It's like, I'm good shit.
Yeah, that's how I would see it.
Yeah,
and that's how I felt it too, was like the town movement.
Yeah.
I think I had some already kind of like leading sorts of that, stuff. And it goes back to my first Masonic experience, which our Blue Lodge, we use a chain of reflection. Right. So, there's some stuff in there, and I'm like, when I come out of there, it's like, this reminds me of this, and this. And, I see somebody looking at me like, no, I just understand. No, I don't know. It's like, how does he know this stuff? Or like, I didn't know he was interested in this stuff, So,
I really wish I would have had the chamber of reflection going through. I mean, it's a pivotal part of Masonry, but I think is, and I don't know why it was taken away. It wasn't. I mean,
it's either your stake in a political thing, or it was. I mean, I think one or two of the other bodies might use it, so they kind of call that theirs. Maybe I don't know. I just there's probably other reasons, like in different jurisdictions, of why they have it. And then too, like, what are you putting in there, right? Is this something you're going to learn about eventually? Are we going to talk about? We don't talk about it in our lectures, right? But or do we, right? Or some of the things that you're going to see in there, is that something that you agree that we visit? But I think it's like anything in Masonry. It's like you're put in a position to then question, right? To like ask like what those symbols were and the things and the items that you are presented. What are they? But it's also subconscious too, because if you're the guy that's just going to show up to get the ring, and you're in there, it's going to make you question. Just the same thing like the UFO that pops out of the sky, yes, right? Or the ghost that walks through the wall, right? You're going to be like, well, that's not. And we got this whole existential breakdown mentally. We're like, well, I'll like process this, right? Same deal, right? You get to the chamber of reflections, you're like, okay, right? Yeah. So definitely, I think that's part of the thing. And even I would wager that even the actual degrees are the same thing. Yeah, they do. There's no doubt about it. No face. Here you go back even on the initiatory side, and you look at other initiatory all the experience, all the mystery schools that feed you full of psychedelics and throw you in a dark pit. Yeah, right. Starve you for days. Yeah. Right? You get something to attack you in the dark. Yeah. And then like we'll open the door and let you come out. Yeah. Another chamber where some other stuff happens. Like, I wonder how appealing those things were. That's for I don't know too much about all the Egyptians, but I don't know if that was more like a priestly thing or like that they had like caste system sort of like thing. I don't know, but I mean, well, how would you? Would that sound intriguing to you if you were like, unless you're like driving a Volkswagen minibus and wearing the lighting glasses and rolling up like, dude, I got pops of pills going out over there under the stars, dude, I'm down and down. Yeah. Can you imagine back then though? I mean, like venomous snakes and shit being thrown out. Like, that was a real like trial by people didn't make it out. Yeah, like literally didn't make it. Like that was a big deal. So like I think that was like the weight of it. It's gone from like there's literally people that are not going to make it out is that want to know this. Yes, that want to practice and learn and carry this tradition out. They will end up fucking dying to it. Right. To where we get to like I would say mid-century. That's where guys are just doing it because it's a thing. Yeah. Right. A lot. I think we've seen some recent publications with some authors and we have some Masons that have published books and talk about initiation. Yeah, things like that. Yeah. And I heard one of the guys from ADC, saying he said the same kind of thing. It was like during those initiatory processes, they were life. There was a potential that you were gonna die. Through that initiatory. It wasn't a joke. Yeah, it wasn't. And that there's. No doubt in my mind, that would leave an impression on you forever, right? Oh, yeah. Yeah, not only probably stir up something, you kind of allude to like intuition, right? Yeah. Things that when we see these symbols, they have this an ear being, right? Well, so I think there's like, that implication of having to go through a physical, and like emotional, mental, in that light, in that sense of like, Zap's always knocking at the door kind of thing where I could die. Like one of those Vipers bites, you could die. Yeah. So I think it's definitely changed. But I think the opportunity to have that still there. Right. And I think that we don't not throw people fight anymore. But I mean I think that the ritual and the allegory still gets the point across. Mm-hmm. It does. And I think that's like a thing, and I think a lot of the UFO people and the experiencers, whatever, they have a lot of them had near-death experiences, like when a car accident or something, where they have like a life, like would have been died, then a near-death experience, and see how either they get upside or angels or whatever, right? They have this whole type of awakening moment. And after they come out of that, then they start seeing shit they've never seen before, like UFOs. Yeah. Aliens, like whatever, they get your voices, if they know things were really going to happen, freak out, weird shit like that, and it's like, well, what did that do? Is that and once I started learning about that with the whole UFO thing and the phenomenon thing, I was like, wow,
So it has a lot of ties in the mystery school, right? Yeah, because it puts you in the same thing. It's the same mechanism, right? In Egyptian times, it's true at my time. Yeah, now when you get out of civilized, things that pretty good chance you have to die. Right? But it's still, whatever it does, I think it's the mechanism that still puts you into the mental, spiritual, or emotional state that, like we were talking about, it does open up the door, right, to allow those things. Yeah, because I love you guys. I mean, we went out and we did that thing. You got to see the Lord, Yeah, we meditated and we made that happen. Yeah, when it was 3, I wrote the first. We walked in, we saw one. It was daylight, and then the 2 nights, but because we are brothers and we fathers, whatever, we have that fellowship. We have that, I mean, I say some crazy shit all the time, but nobody bats an eye. Expect, I would expect, I expect it from everybody else too, and nobody goes, I mean, but I think it's because we've had that shared experience, right? And those degrees and then those things we've gone through, and even outline that, I think that it's kind of like, well, yeah, right? Nobody goes, oh, yeah, and everybody just goes, maybe, right? Yeah. Right. No, and it's cool that everybody just doesn't go guess either, right? It's just kind of like, yeah, maybe, yeah. Don't let you. From my experience, and we just watched that video, before we started here, but that was and while I'm laughing because some of the stuff that we were saying, but what brings to mind, you talk about somebody who's in that potential, that threat of danger, or somebody, you mentioned somebody at accident. Yeah. There's things that you're probably tapping into that you're not in any other scenario. And same way with that experience there, while we could laugh and joke about with some of the stuff we were saying, we spent some time together, we meditated, and attentively, we focused on that. And while that particular meditation we did is totally new to me, but it was something that, you could then ask some questions was that the result of what we did, right? Right. So it follows the scientific method in some sense. We did it twice. Yeah, we did 2 nights. We had results. So, what is it? Is intent, right? It could be intent. Yeah, no matter what but just, they're calling in human initiated contact, HIC. So, so you said human initiated contact, which just means when they put it out. There's some people in government that are really, recently, going, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do, know what that is. You know what that means? Either really. Yeah. You just read the Jim Simivan, the former CIA guy, who's don't do it. Who thinks bad news? He's it's bad news. If it comes near you, talk to it, get away. He's ruin the house. It's tell it to get away. Because I guess there was a long list of people that have been really hurt by this. No kidding. Yeah. So is that the focus on, was that particular intent to, contact, something extraterrestrial that would then approach you? And under what condition would you do that, right? So, so somebody's saying, hey, don't do that. Don't do what? What are you referring to? Well, they're talking about human initiated contact. I think it was quarterly CE5. It was kind of what we did is basically meditation and asking something to come to us, come, this is where we're at. Yeah. Come, we want to see. Welcoming you, come in and, we're peaceful, we're, we just want to communicate with you, come on in, let's go. But you're saying that, it's just talking about hey, you don't know what that thing is. That could be, you could have all the good intention in the world, but that thing goes to you. You know what's going to do the end, and the reason he's saying that is because all this backlog of data that they have, these things affecting people, there's poltergeist thing that happened, there's physical effects of people sick, really sick, they get cancer and shit like that, they get, really bad shit happens to them, it follows the ground, you move somewhere else, sick stuff happens to you, stuff like that. But then the opposite of that's true too, where people do what we did, have these things, the states come down with experiences where they're healed of cancer, where they're, what I mean? That's the same thing too. So it's literally both. Somebody's going to this thing is going to give you cancer and hurt you real bad for the rest of your life, but it's going to heal you.
Yeah. Well, the mythic, malefic thing.
Yeah. So, like, just fucking with it.
Yeah.
The whole time.
So the intent could be whatever. The intent doesn't matter. Is what you're saying in those situations. That's what, or maybe what he's saying.
Yeah, that's what he's saying, because, and everybody else is saying, well, the intent there is everybody's of like mind, and they're trying to put out a good vibe, and, like all this stuff, and then say malicious intent, whatever. But they've seen it where people are malicious or more military mindset that, bad shit about installation backs.
Really?
Real. So it's kind of like, So, but I mean, for us, we were just kind of like, hey, was welcoming the thing, and sorry that anything bad's happened to any of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's interesting to see the two sides. I think it's the paradigm, right? You flip the coin. I think it's same on both sides. Right?
Yeah. Well, that goes back to what you said. Like, I never would have probably found that. I never known it unless I did that with you. That's like almost 100% big that we would cut to you. And that's what's so cool about, like our relationships and all goes back to that. And I appreciate that. I love what you're doing as a show here. Thanks, dude. It's just fantastic. I mean, I was explaining you to somebody yesterday, because I told him I was doing this. This guy's dynamic personality, good looking dude, like still some little hang out with them. Yeah, and it's fun, and you just create like a really cool atmosphere. I can't just thanks. I feel like it's you got a good thing going, man. But you keep rocking it.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. That's means a lot coming from you, man. Appreciate it.
Again, but we experienced something that I probably never experienced, and that was a whole appreciation factor, right? That we had as brothers, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that we ran the gamut from if I can't believe it, then we would listen to it earlier in tonight. It was everybody more like, it's not a fucking satellite, it's not a plane, it's not a space station, it's not everybody was.
Yeah,
it's just everything. Kind of explain it away, right? That is, what is it? It's a drone. It's not a drone. It's then they'll fall in. You're left with what?
Yeah, with somebody to all that explain,
right? But then that's, to me, it could be something, whatever you thought. It could be an angel, right? It could be a demon. It could be whatever. And I think it's up to the individual to put that label on it.
Yeah, when I discern it, right? You need to figure out what that is. It's like kind of makes me question, like I guess, my understanding would be, or my initial understanding would be that like the intent would have the effect that keeps it up. Yeah, and nature how we kind of thing. So I like almost hearing that you don't, it's kind of, oh man, should we have done that?
Instead of the end, but I think that's it. I really think that's the intent of that we put out. I think that's what you back, right? And their job is, it's always, I think that's the way of the road, right? We put out the intent, it comes back. Yeah, then that's why you bump the road, but I mean, if you're going to be an asshole, bad stuff's going to happen.
Yeah,
right. If you're a good guy, you try real hard, sometimes bad shit's going to happen with you.
It's going to happen. Well, yeah. That'll why to good things happen to mad people or vice versa, right?
Right. Yeah, but I think with that, I think it's more focused and tight, and like you planted that. Like people say, for 50 people praying for somebody or 100 people praying for somebody. I mean, that's a fact, okay. If you have like a whole country, you look past that another country, whenever, social media, propaganda, whatever, it's going to add that into it too.
Yeah.
So I think that's the kind of where we're at. And I think that's one of the things that Masonry has been really cool about. And at the end, I don't think you saw the new trailer. It came up yesterday, which today. The trailer up for Saturday, right? I think next, like a couple of weeks, we're having like a signing. It's going to be like live. They're going to do it on Facebook. They're going to sign with like all the jurisdictions.
Yeah.
And I think I heard it was Pensacola. Was he up? Maybe it's cool. So like they're having all Masons like everybody there.
Man, it was jurisdiction southern and
it's all.
That's fantastic.
Everybody's finally coming together, right? There's literally a division between the Northern and Southern. Well, that division was just separate.
The same work in different ways.
Right. So none of just fired. Screw it. Sit together and That's one big thing, right?
But yeah, I think you have people too, like from the northern jurisdiction, who probably the southern too. Like, what's the southern jurisdiction do? I want to go see degrees in southern jurisdiction.
Yeah. Like, they had to like make a decree earlier in the year, but like, yeah, you can go. We said it's cool now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, when you read Pike, right, and you go back to, and you really trace Masonry back, and you take it back off this continent, right? You go over to Europe and trace those back. It's easy to miss, right? It's easy to miss the original intent, right? And whatever you want to call it, like enlightenment, like ideals, whatever it is you want to ascribe to, it really does. It gets watered down. It can, it can get watered down, right? And that's what I think is so fascinating about the fraternity too, is it made it, and it's like humble way, but still preserving, those whatever you want to call them, mysteries, right, or ancient traditions. They're there, right? For somebody that thinks they're going to join Freemasonry, be in a business circle, they're probably not going to see that stuff. But if they're inclined to do study, something like it. Yeah, I think you're going to follow those things. So, and you will, I think, even in the teaching, right? The teaching of the degrees, if they're saying the ultimate, the allegory that's referring to, however it's presented, you still have that ability to then discover why is it presented, right? Right. So, but I think it's fantastic to have the people coming together and sharing those things and giving, maybe, I don't know, we'll see what comes.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll go with that. I think we got on this jurisdiction, see what else going on. Yeah, why not? I mean,
look, actually, guys, bring what heresies been up.
Yeah. Then, I think that's rad. I think there's, obviously, it's weird because, we're Mason, right? And it's like, well, why is there a divide? I mean, there's divide in an organization that's supposedly non-dividable.
Yeah.
Right? It's supposedly undividable, but there's still, which is it's so baffling to me, even in this day. I mean, it's 2022, for God's sakes. I mean, what's going on? But, it goes back to that thing that was always done this way. And well, I think it seems like there's probably a newer enlightenment. Well, let's just get together, at least. Yeah, let's open the door. Then let that happen. But I feel like you're having a little bit of a shift, so they could kind of have just a social shift anyway. I remember when I was just becoming crafty into a lot of research and was in Michigan. Fantastic group of guys, and I had a great time there. But it wasn't just there. There were other things that I went to beside things. And I like to pop outside and traveling out of state. Right.
But like MRF, or we just there's the St. Posey, we in the state of Ohio. He's going to those different things, and I've always felt like it was just that somebody would bring up, like, we need to find out how to, really get in touch with the millennials or get in touch with the other generation. We need to be doing more on the cell phone.
It's just these watches, new things.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is what I appreciate. I feel like I can enter this world where I don't have to have my phone in it. I don't need that, and there were other guys that I felt like that were coming to Masonry for that. I want to put my phone down. Want to have whether it's a philosophical question, right? I want to, that whole mystery behind why did I knock on the door for Masonry? I want that. I feel like it's helpful. Well, I think females crave some of that too. And that goes back to initiation thing. But I feel like it's something men do. They crave that, that process of not only acceptance, but then, further discovery, right? When being inquisitive, when that asks, why are we doing some of the world around us? Why is the world the way it is? Well, then I think it harbors that too, right?
Yeah, but I think that I could totally agree with you on all of those points. And I think that, how long have been a Mason? It's 2008 or something, but
I came in at the beginning of where it was, the decline, right? Where it was just shooting mothballs, right? I mean, it was lodges goes all over the place. There was, the lodges stringed together because they could keep members, we keep our foldings, and, it's kind of who he didn't know. I mean, what the Grandmaster was last year, 2 years ago, like they have a motto every year, right? Yeah, it was like, replace yourself. Yeah, right. It's like, we're in such dire need. It's like, hey, there's not many of us left. Like, your job before you leave Masonry is to find somebody else that, you're shooting at. And, it's like, we look at the numbers where, like, in the early part of the century, it's millions and millions. Oh, we're just a small number. But I think in the past, at least 5 years, they're seeing I think there's been a Volaninos and, other men coming up now, and they're finding with the mysteries and things like that. And to whoever that guy's point was, is like, well, if you're trying to attract that whole demographic, like this guy who's 80 years old has no idea. Yeah. And that's, we're trying it, but at least be relevant in this age, right? How do you become relevant? How does an ancient mystery school become relevant in 2022, right? I don't know. I don't know. That's it. Like, how do they do it? 50? How do they do it? Like there had to be these ebbs and flows, right? Where like all this would have happened, right? I know there was a time where they're just like shooing people away, like, get out of here right now. But I was like, we had open houses before, like Lodge and Delta. I mean, a few years ago, I was like, holy crap! Like, and they were like, yeah, we've never since like 18, whatever, we've never had an open house, and they're we open house, and people show up, ask questions, and hang out. It's like, that's great. Now those things are awesome. Like, let's beat it, Yeah, it is. And I think too, that's what I find so cool about wives that spend time at education. Mm-hmm. Well, that was like one of my first questions. I was at an event outside of my lodge, and there were guys that give different lectures, and I was in any credits, and I'm like, I read like mention with he does all the other master masons. Are you allowed to talk about this stuff? What can I say? What I can't say? Yeah, and I feel like with the educational hall that we're focusing and working on some of those things, we're then able to talk about Freemasonry is, right? Right. And we're able to share, with other people why we like it, right? And it just, I think it just attracts people that way, right? And I think you get more people that know how to share their Masonic experience, right? If you don't have those guys so much at like, you say, well, what is Freemason? Well, I don't know. I just showed up and we did some things. Is it like scared to, like what can and what I can't talk about? Yeah. And I mean, I think there's something intriguing, right? With they have the mystery, right? Which is why we didn't do the rituals in public, right? I mean, right. For one, they, it creates our own space, right? I mean, and also it still does keep that mystery, and that in itself, I think, was intriguing. Although, just that having that initial mindset, you go into something, we have that, well, this is intriguing, or why you ask somebody like that. Well, we made one edition. When we ask someone, like, why Freemason, right? Things that we for you, and then, you hear that beat around the bush. It's like, you can tell me because you're here. Like, that's totally okay. Yeah, it is sad. And really, I think also, a lot of times that's what the fraternity needs, people like that, right? If you're initially curious, then you're going to stay curious. Yeah, you're going to continue to ask those questions. And the tough part is about like the whole information thing is, and why it's important to educate the lodge is that you get on the internet and you know how it is. I mean, you're finding everything that, there's so much, with mistruths, there's so much fallacy, there's so much things that, are just off the wall, and, you carry things back to when, Masonry was here. It was probably a threat, right? To some extent to maybe a monarchy or something like that, where they didn't have necessarily control because they learned at that lodge, which maybe was why you had almost joined the lodges. But the first third party in America, first
third political party in the United States was the anti-Masonic. Yes, because there were so many Masons on both sides of the island that somebody was like, well, I need to rein up the anti-Masonic party. Yeah, like what party? Like this, that was the first third party in the United States of America. It was the anti-Masonic party. Yeah. So we look at that, it's like an impact though that would have had on the world at that time to have that happen. You didn't. I mean, I think that's what it was. And you know, the more research I've done, we even said in that trailer that I was talking about, it's like basically America was founded in Masonic beliefs. We founded this country to be tolerant of, you know, really free speech, federal law, you know, all the things we hold inside of a lodge. If we face this America, yeah, greatly, yeah, you know, it has. We came here and said when it was founded. Right. It was founded back. But the foundation of America was founded on the religious freedom, the freedom of speech, you know, all these things. Like, so, yeah, I mean, it was kind of a grand experiment, right? The grand was like experiment. America, right? And I think it's done well. Yeah, throughout time, and we go back, like we said, monarchies and dictatorships and religion. Now that those aren't still true, I mean, a lot of parts of the world, they're still there. I mean, all that stuff still happens. See, Masonry has been kind of like the glue the whole shit together. At least we have the men that taking charge, or you know, found the inspiration or the, you know, the guile whenever to be able to go out and do it. Say, I'm gonna do this. I have a responsibility to make the world I'm in a better place. Yeah, for everybody, not just for me, but for everybody. So, yeah. I mean, thankfully, that's happened. Yeah, that's why we're sitting here. Yeah, yeah. And nobody believes that. Everybody thinks rather like, you know, and we can practice alchemy if we want. We can, you know, practice theology and, you know, astrology. We're not going to get hung or right. Be edit, right? Yeah, whatever. You can worship and go if you want. Yeah, yeah. Those are, I think, fantastic ways that kind of guess we're every day. It's just then I attribute a lot of stuff to Freemasonry. Yeah. So I think it's lost on a lot of people. I really don't think that people are going to see that at all. I mean, honestly, I think up until this past couple of generations, you know, maybe it was a little bit evident because if you looked there, there was a Mason that's, you know, at least in a leadership position or politics or something, or this is the good guy that he was good to. Yeah, and I think that was even more of that. But yeah, we're getting there. We are. Yeah, I think so. I joked about Israelites that we became Mason. We need more basic politics, you know, it's to have that, like, yeah, you know how it is. Like, yeah, I mean, you, for the most part, I want to say, not that there's probably certain cases, but for the most part, we assume when we meet other Masons, right? Like, you expect a certain character, right? And knowing the moral, like, just things are presented to you morals, right? They get a lodge. Even if you don't look into them deeply, you still expect it out of the man that went through that. Right. He conducts himself according to your able. Yeah, you know, that's kind of what you expect, right? Right. I mean, well, we should be famous stories like during the Civil War, where there was Masons that were, you know, captains or generals or whatever. It was like they would meet. We like we got to do this, and this is our duty, right? We got to do this country, and it's like, well, you know, I think it's a famous statue. You know, it's like brother or something. You ever seen this? Yeah, where it's like, we be a soldier and the better soldier, and like aims being deal. Yeah, it's like covering him, you know, like helping him around. Yeah, and they were they fighting against each other? Yeah, and so it worked. Yep. So it's like, even at those times, it's just, where's that at? Why cannot they really? It's at, how long do you wait? It's Virginia, probably now. Really salt. Is it a southern state? I think it's, I can't not think, like, somebody's going to, like, listen to us, they're going to be like, he was going to be like, oh, idiots, you know, like, you shouldn't all that. Well, I'll pick it up. I'll see it would have a crash in the computer. But yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. The same, that was like, we could still disagree. Friend of friend, Masonic Memorial, Gettysburg Battle, Gettysburg, Kansas, a pizza, about this shit about that. I've been there. See,
And he's depicting the Armistead Bingham incident after Bigot's charge in which Union Army Captain Henry H. Bingham assisted mortally wounded Confederate Brigadier General Lewis Addison Armistead, both Freemasons. Yeah. Rather that story. Yeah, in Gettysburg. So, yeah, so it's, yeah, they had a duty, right, to hear, right, yeah, like, I don't know if you want to call it profane duty of like the outside world to, party. Yeah, and they, that even, go back to Rosicrucianism, right? I mean, that was some of their, like their charters, their core beliefs, yeah, to like function in the world and act in the world and turn the better. Wow, and you're gonna, you're working at healing. I mean, I'm sure some of those people became doctors, things like that, or clergy, and and then you're to do it for free. Yeah, and the secret, right? They have their broadcasts and things and saying, "Hey, come on, do this," or and do that, and you were to kind of move within the world around you and like positively influence the world around you. We have no bragging about our telling me, like a secret superhero stuff. Yeah, it is really. I mean, I was there seeing right enemy and not telling anybody what you're doing. You'd be a force for it. Well, too, I'm not some of the mystic or like esoteric traditions, like they really embody that, right? I mean, you really go down a spiritual or like a monastic, outside lifestyle where you do practices. You do practice, how can I positively influence the world around me, right? Where, it's like Rosicrucian, in most cases, you're going to be Christian, right? Or you're going to believe in Christ, lead to that. Well, in our words, right? So it's an 8, I don't know if the other ones are, but yes, that's too familiar. But I mean, you have like meta when and thinking about, and you need to go to the time period that we could look back and say Rosicrucianism started as we know it today. Mm-hmm. Where it started then, I think you still have that, like that album, there those like charges of like, this is your duty, and this is how you should conduct yourself. The sense it's been asked, right, and that broadcast right out there, for the same reason why Ukraine private or wants to say they get home. Yeah, that's one of them. I think if you look at mystically, like you're really doing something for the self, and you're really conditioning yourself to be. You're dealing with ego, right? Ego, right? So you're trying to, that can be, definitely, right? You're trying to smash it. I see in some cases, right? Like if you look at, I would say like a Marxist tradition, like I want to say that is probably, it's not so much like sliding the ego or causing separation or to just completely dissolve it. It's more or less like, I would say potentially, you understand it's given the current state of things, you can put it to work, right? Or you can work with it. And not being, like anxiety or being, like, I want to say it's like anti-asceticism, right? Like, so just making that clear. So those listening on ascetic is, right? It's probably go off in the woods and meditate, or a mountaintop, and they would be there for years out of end, meditating and spending time in service, right? And you just to do that within the community, or do that to yourself so that you can put it out. Yeah, I'm gonna say like that's probably that would be true. I guess just bring that brings that like to my mind that charge of that potential Rosicrucian charge is like, if you look at the original Rosicrucian structure, we look at the Fonda at Confessio, and you look at the structure and how they were guiding the members. This is how you conduct yourself. Right. And I think it has something to do with that. Just that, not necessarily that you're not removing yourself from the world and being ascetic, right? Like you're charged with actually still dealing with your ego and going out into the world and like, and still being a missionary of sorts, right?
Secret superhero.
Yeah, the secret superhero. It's kind of what it says. Literally, what it's to harness all of your internal struggles, power, whatever, and help the world. Yeah, at the same time. Yeah, and you think about, like, if you completely remove yourself from the world. I mean, what good are you? Because you're still dealing with somebody that, may have cancer, or you're dealing with someone who maybe goes through some, mental instability. And you're really charged to try to find ways to heal the world around it, right? So, to make the world a better place. And it seems to me in the actual practical as those traditions, it seems like that's the goal, right? Like you're engaged for that. Yeah. And I'm not totally dissing the Eastern tradition here, but I feel like the Eastern tradition has that a lot. Like in the, where you kind of removing yourself from the world, right? Right. And it's not so much even like that. And I'm referring to Martinism here. It's like even like I think people get, while I think there's some Gnostic elements that kind of came through that, and even Rosicrucianism itself, I feel like people get that, like, they get confused, like the world's, like, the physical world's evil. I think there's, like, that's the initial understanding that, I'm sorry?
That's what everybody's alluding to Martinism, is that the physical world is evil. And
no, I want to say that it comes from more of, like, the assumption that Gnosticism potential influence what we know Martinism. Yes. Yeah. Which is not the case in the Christian tradition either, right? It's not the physical world's evil, or they actually, it's in what we know, they're encouraging you to study nature, right? Study the world around you. Mm-hmm. And I think same in Martinism, it's the same, I think, kind of concept that you're not really looking at the world as being evil. Mm-hmm. It's a condition of where we are, right? Like where we are now. Right now. And your goal is to not necessarily look at the world as evil, the physical world as evil, but find a way to, reintegrate. That's sort of the common idea that you find Martinism is reintegration.
Kind of asserting yourself into the spectrum of the surroundings, kind of thing.
I think Martinist cosmology, what it focuses on, like, we think of the world as like we use it for like creation, right? Indeed, God created this world. And a lot of that might be somewhat true. The Martinist tradition says that God, like, everything emanated from God, so many spirits. So while you may be not maybe as connected as you once were, you're still a part of it, right? You're still part of that. And then that has to reintegration is reintegrating yourself with God, right? Being back in that connection, I guess, back in that. That cosmology itself, it's unique, right? You really can't kind of look at, you can't look at that and really compare it to really anything else, which is like, just like any other traditions, you can't do that. You gotta kind of look at it for its own ways and appreciate it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, that there's probably some tenets that hold true across all of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, there's not so alien that it's inconceivable. Right? I mean, there's always some tenets that hold true.
Yeah. And what you're doing, I think, essentially, you're stripping down all that social conditioning that you had by just being born where you're born. Whatever societal structure you're born under, right? You're really stripping that down. And then going back to, like we talked about earlier, it's like looking at those different things, a very objective, right? Really taking all the other opinionated stuff out of there, just saying, what are the reoccurring themes, the reoccurring truths?
Yeah, totally. I mean, because that's it. I mean, there's all that unifying structure there, that everybody just wants to get along, and there's more commonality than not.
Yeah,
that across the world, right?
think through all of these other lenses we've been, directed apart, saying, I think how do you look back?
Yeah. But somebody you kind of jumped me the other day, and like when I was giving a presentation of the Blazing Star to get into like the Jewish Kabbalah.
Yeah.
And I made mention of like Casino Solomon, and you see that in Islamic history and tradition as well, and so they just like pull up and they're like, yeah, that's not true, and I'm like, I was like, okay, like just I didn't go down that road, I was like, okay, well, let's take a step back and let's look at that, and we did that another time. But I feel like you still have that, like those constructs that you have given your religious background, right? That's one of those instances that I think we got to kind of peel away that stuff,
Right. Well, that's just like the lens that people have been conditioned to view things through.
Yeah.
We look at the Blazing Star. Is it Venus or lit?
Is it
Solomon Seal? Is it Bible? Do we go to the whole thing? It's the whole people.
Yeah.
Is it whatever you think it is because that's what you thought it was at the moment? Probably.
Yeah.
Then you get a group of enough people, large enough group of people to think and agree it's one thing. Is that what it is?
Sure. Well, I had another Mason, right, like during that conversation saying, like, that's not the way I looked at the Blazing Star. And I said, I'm not saying my explanation was right, and it was, it was influenced by, that, like, I was still Jewish, right? So it was, they had that like undertones. You were presenting it from your perspective of the Jewish Kabbalah. Yeah, right. Like the same way I'd give a presentation about like something that William Search did was going to be more Christian heavy. We had somebody come up and say, I like that, but it was just too Christian. I'm like, well, that's what that's what you're gonna get in his writing. You're gonna get those references to the sacraments or confirmation or
Well, you can't be so try to flip a word. Is not the word. You can't come up. You can't be so like, neutral that these influences don't freak up on anybody. Yeah, no matter what. If you screw it, real time like watching SpongeBob. Whatever I forget to be influenced by SpongeBob. Yeah, we grew up and they had that weird laugh, and you just have an identity best friend. Yeah, leading to the sea, like doing dumb stuff, right? But like. So, all of it, right? There's that whole thing. So, but it's just goes to show that there's still.
It's a dead teaching.
It's not when you become a Mason, the door of your mind flies wide open. No, you still hold your inner beliefs or your core values or whatever you're raised on. Yeah, well, you should, right? No, and I go back and look at my own personal life. Like I grew up Roman Catholic, raised Catholic. Shortly after graduating high school, I got more into the Eastern tradition where I found many things that were valuable, but I always felt like I was kind of missing something, and not that. Not discrediting the Eastern religions. I just felt like I had to go back to Christianity. So I found a way to like reapproach Christianity, and probably very Protestant, right? Because it was on my own terms. Like I had this, blessed Catholic Church, for the influence that I had. I had some very great just mentors and people that worked with me, and I felt that, like you talked about prayer earlier. I went through some tough times, and I felt I felt that prayer. Like other people, I knew they were praying for. I just feel it. So very powerful, and that had a very strong influence on my life. And then I think the institution, I think, pushed me away. Is like this idea of having to have someone else tell you you're forgiven. Like that kind of I think the Protestant. Yeah. I'm not saying that's what I describe to solely or anything like that, but I think just that thought I was able to find certain things that allowed me to come back to Christianity. Yeah. Well, I say this, I don't know if I say it publicly or not, I say it to friends and other people, it's just like, it's just my interpretation of God, very Catholic as well. And I just think that at some point, they lost the magic. And I'm he's a paraphrasing it. Whenever that made that rule, whatever the beliefs or ceremony or whatever they had that was able to unify large masses of people to follow into that, right? Yeah. See the land, see the money, everything just fall into that. We got at some point. Yeah. I'd say it's my personal, that got right. Like, I'm not saying that it wasn't there, that it might still be there, that maybe it's, that base layer. Maybe that's what's keeping people coming back, because they can still sniff it. Yes. It's still kind of down there, but I think that once you get ultimately, power and all that, that to use that to become an institution, a global institution that's bigger than every government on the planet. Yeah, that has more money than every government on the planet, that has more resources than everybody else on the entire planet. Yeah, I think there's the connection, there's the magic skull. Yeah, that's just my 2 cents. Right? Yeah, I definitely think that when you get so large, I think a lot of those things, unfortunately do happen. Yeah, it's just a business. It's bureaucracy. It's just another. Yeah, it's not. They hang in the things that I find. Like, I appreciate great, like the sacraments. So those are one of the things that I really found very, that's mystical. Like, that to me is, what is a mystical tradition? Yes, we get down to it's to go magical ceremony. We were through that. Yeah, pants, it is separate, we're doing this thing. Yeah, we're groping spirits. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And I make people look at it. You're invoking the Holy Spirit. Yeah, right. They're invoking the body of Christ to come into this wafer, Yeah. They're doing these things. You have to have a ritual that you're performing every time. Yeah. Then it's not lost. It's lost on a lot of people, but it's not lost on people like us. Yeah. But like I said, there's that underlying base that's bringing it back to that's there, that golden thread is still there. Really fucked up still. It's just dangling. You have to rent it. There's like shit hanging off. It's similar battle, I think, even with that too, is that you're, and I don't know, I'm speaking, I'm at my own spiritual like tendencies. It's just that, you still have those own internal battles where you find that connection, right? But then you're still having that struggle, like, I can't keep that connection, like I can only get it in like small doses, and I imagine, for somebody to keep, 1,000 people or how many people would be part of their parish, like how can you keep everybody dialed in that way? And yourself, deal with, 1,000 people or more, you're dealing with your own internal struggles, Yeah. I mean, I haven't been to Mass in years, right? And that went, it's like 2 weeks ago now that we have a daughter, so it's just from school. Yeah. And wanted her, the first time that she went to Catholic Mass, we have to go once a week. I wanted to be with Becca, and I said, I'm just like, a bunch of the kids, and was like, well, this is, he just throw her in there, not having to spare, and we're just baptized and moved through the whole thing, right? So, but, this is, but, I'm sitting there and we're just like, this is like different than, growing up. I mean, definitely, a lot of things have changed, but I mean, just the people too. And this is just my objective experience of that people showing up 20 minutes late. Yeah, it's like they have like flip flops and tank tops. Yeah. Like, really, like, and I'm not saying it's bad things. When I was a kid, I had to wear dress shoes and just like, it was Sunday church. Yeah, like, like just when they're talking, people are just like rolling in, like, and like people are leaving before the end of Mass, and I'm just like, but like, the readings, right? Like the readings, whatever, a couple different readings, and people just twist. Well, the one I could probably look it up, but one of them was one of the prophets, and I can't remember his name right now.
I can see. It was Jeremiah. Maybe it was Jeremiah, but basically he was saying that there's with war coming, with the king, whatever, war's coming, people are attacking. Well, like, throw him in the cistern. So threw him in a well, and it was muddy, and we fell down to his knees, was just gonna die. And then I was like, yeah, you should get them out. So that was the read. That was one of the readings. And then the second reading after that was it was Jesus saying, I didn't come to unite. I came to divide. I carry the sword. I came to divide. I came to divide husband and wife, son and daughter, whatever. I came to divide. I didn't come to unite. And it was those are the two readings back to back. And then the priest got up there and was like, well, I cut up a couple of strange readings, and you can admit it. Yeah. People don't know why they're put there. It's what it says. I had to read today. I'm reading. Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm a real shit job trying to explain both of those things, right? And there's no getting out of it. And I'm looking at my wife. What the fuck are we doing? Nobody's buying this story. It was struggling with them. We're not buying this explanation. Sorry. Yeah, and then I my mom stood back to her and said, she's really active in the Catholic Church. And I said, Mom, this is what I listen to. She's like, yeah, I listen to it. What do you mean? She's like, yeah, no, it's the same. And I go, what? They go, what? She's like, no, yeah, it comes down from either Rome or bishop or somebody. Yeah, in every fucking church use the same read. Yeah, every week. Yeah, the lectionaries. Yeah, it's all the, and she's on weeks. Yeah, and she's like, well, she's like, well, then, this year we're in the book of, it's a rotation, so it's every, this year we're doing this, and then it's after so many years doing stuff. I'm like, so somebody's somewhere up here making this decision, and and it's just coming down to everybody at the same time. Everybody's getting the same thing. Yeah. And it's up to the interpretation of the priest or whoever, the bishop, whoever, right? Deacon, whoever's doing that to try to explain this without any type of guidance or their knowledge or whatever to it. Everybody sit around going, what the actual fuck? Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's exactly where I was at. And I'm like, this is why this sucks. There is nothing here for anyone, but somebody up there has a fucking plan, right? I don't know what that is. I'd love to know. I'd love to know what that, what? But to me, that's just my recent experience. I'm like that's the kind of shit that makes people want to leave. Yeah. I don't know, but that's just my 2 cents. Like I said, sorry, I was forced to go to absolute my entire life. My God, I was never fucking back. I still appreciate when I go back 100%. We probably consider it a heretic at this point. They threw us out how many years? How many thousands of years of Masons solid we've had? Yeah. It was up until the 70s. I think it's still the case. Is it? I just don't think it's. And then when you go, I know it is, of course. And I was American. Yeah, I'm big fucking just that. Biggest one I could find. They never kick you out, but no, they need to. Yeah, they're ready. That was the other bit that got me twisted too. It was last year I came to they did this Catholic Church put out this thing that said, because of the pandemic in 2020, they lost $1 billion in people donated to the church, just from mass. Wow, billion. Oh, they said $1 billion in America. That's just fucking America. Wow, we're billion. So if you just take that number and just go back a couple thousand years, 100. Yeah, and add that up. What they're bringing in on top of that. Yeah. That's just people passing around the plate for 1 year that lost $1 billion fucking dollars. It's a lot of money to us, right? But more than GDP in most countries in the world. Yeah. So I'm thinking, why are you bitching? Well, first of all, why would you say that naively? And why are you bitching about it? Anyway, so I haven't heard that. First, I haven't heard that. So I don't know if I come off that worse. I'm sorry. I had to get on it for a minute and write it. Well, I certainly didn't unpromise it. Yeah. No, I get it. But just to me, I was I honestly believe, and I agree, I honestly believe that there's that kernel of something there that's still there, probably through the ritual. Yeah. Well, it's Christ, and it's words for and that stuff. It transcends all the other bullshit. Yeah. I think people can see that.
Yeah.
And then they all see other bullshit. But they put their stuff back to the that was here about the woods and getting song.
Yeah, it's yeah, that's each his own kind of thing. I think,
That's why there's a beady fucking churches there. It was like the First Baptist Church, the Second Baptist Church, like there's there's like a church of whatever. There's
more than what you know.
oh, it's just rock love in the church. Anyway, we quite used the garage as a church.
Yeah, we're having stuff for different denominations,
Right.
different ways of practicing, expressing your faith. And you just find those clusters. It's kind of what that hierarchical system. You don't have that. Like if you got obviously somebody, say Northwest Ohio, was going to, the people there had different needs. While the core, the kernel, like you mentioned, is going to be the same. But say you go to somebody like North Africa, you're practicing the same thing. They have a set of different needs. It's that communication factor, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you read the Bible, right? Everybody's in it. Unfortunately, everybody interprets the Bible different ways, right? But if you look at it mystically or Kabbalistically, you can break things down that way. That blossoms and has a different meaning. Some people say somebody else saying, yeah, it's just, or you approach it very superficially, right? Where you're not taking into consideration the time period in which these things happened, right? I look at Jesus, who was he practicing out of action principle, right? And he found ways to, he was dealing with this, again, those social constructs. So, the Roman guards, and things were run in that area, that part of the world at that time. So he found ways to passively protest, right? Or passively get things across, and not just, I'm saying, doubtly, but also, his teaching, the way he approaches teaching.
Maybe he still flipped tables.
He did?
Yeah. And he still carried a sword and said that I'm not here to debate you. We're not budging. So it's the whole paradigm. It's just the yin and yang. It's both. It's still there. Right?
Yeah.
But that's part of the lesson.
And he could go into that one forever too, I think. You get it. Well, Jesus was a man, right? He believed he was God. He was still a man, right? So he was still subject to sin and everything else. So,
Did he use an alien?
do I think he was an alien? In what sense? I was thinking, like, when somebody asks me an alien, I'm like, what do you consider an alien?
I'm not a human.
Hey, so that's a tough one, because I would say when we live in, we all have a capacity that's inhuman, right? We all have you're going to call it a soul, right? Or a spirit. That's, to me, wouldn't necessarily be human. To me, would be a physical body, right?
Okay.
So was Jesus a real human being? I would say yes.
Well,
Was Jesus? Are you referring to Christ, or we referring to Jesus?
Jesus.
Yeah. So I think Jesus was a person. Hey, was a human. I think he came down? The other influences, I don't know, you can get into that if you want. But, when you say human, when I think of the alien, I'm the guy that thinks of, like, the little green man. Like, that's it.
Right.
But I also will kind of go down the avenue of, our angels, right? Could angels be extraterrestrials, right?
Right. Or so, they have to be extraterrestrial. It could be here and just don't. Yes, we don't interact with them like, on the same spectrum.
Yeah.
Like dogs who see infrared, right?
Yeah.
Or like cats, we can't.
Right.
We see it right here.
Yeah.
We could have influence on us already.
Yeah.
So maybe you can cross that spectrum at some point. You hit the head real hard and you can see different colors.
Yeah.
Like maybe, like with that, are the angels of the jinn, of devils of the demons? Are they just always here around us and we're being influenced by them? We got to influence them, vice versa.
So what do you think then? Was Jesus an alien?
Oh, no. I think
we're talking about Jesus. He's the person.
And I don't think he was necessarily human. In regards of, I don't know if he was an alien, as far as a human from a ship, or what Korea got break, but I don't think he didn't exhibit human characteristics.
Yeah, I would say it's, at least according to the promotion. I've never met another human that could walk on line. I've never met another human that could be killed and then come back from the den. Yeah. Or raise it all. Or raise it that, right? Right? Or, I mean, I heard, seen stories and, people healing other people, right? Yeah. So, I mean, there's that. But, I mean, the other things, I've never seen anybody tell anybody to cast a net out and get a bunch of fish or feed, 100 people one loaf of bread or, throw water into wine. Yeah. So my category of human is that. I mean, that would put it into the non-human category for me, right? Like, whatever that is. It could be an alien, it could be extraterrestrial, it could be whatever. But I don't think it believes the same way we do. Yeah. So is it the actual body, or is it the spirit that inhabits them? Yeah. What would make it human? I'm saying like, he's a genius. Yeah. What would make him? Well, I mean, if somebody killing is from that, we can walk on. I mean, the things that we understand that humans can do. But right, that would be. You can't. You can't help that, is it? I can't explain that with people do, right? Like, I can't explain, I know Reiki practitioners, right? I mean, I practice Reiki myself. So, I know, that's where it is. Yeah, and I do. And it's like, if I were to do that, would I be considered an alien? And maybe. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. Like, where do you draw the line? Yeah. There is no line, right? I mean, I think that once it goes back to the seeing things in the sky, that all of a sudden opens your mind up to think finally, possibly. So can you be Jesus? Can you do the things that we read about? The normal human do those things. If enough practice and whatever, right? I mean, is it? It's. I go back to like the Christ consciousness part. Yeah, this is where I'm going. Like where was it? Was the consciousness of Christ inhabited into a human form, a human being, that you and I, right? Was this collective with this Christ consciousness, this elevated consciousness achieved by a human, or achieved, by a human, or was there some type of ceremony where this thing happened? Was there a ritual that he went through that gave him this ability or these different abilities to do these things? Yeah. Can anybody else do? Has there been other people that have done it? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Because imagine somebody coming up to you today and doing that, right? You immediately go through all those things. You'd say, this is how this guy did, this is how he did it. You go through the whole, Angel Street magic, those kinds, I know he's got any shoes. Yeah. So, I don't know. I think, so it's an interpersonal relationship. Or, maybe there was 5 people there that saw that, right? Or 10 and whatever, right? Yeah. And that got written down. He didn't have that sort of rise. Maybe it took that. That was the basis for the belief. Yeah, it was that experience of people seeing shit in the sky like us. They go, well, that's something. Yeah, right. Maybe we should do that. I don't know. It's a thought. And on that note, some out there's going to be like, well, this bed's they're going to bring out. It used to be all in the fucking world I've had. Yeah. I mean, had a house. Usually I have a half a bottle bed. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that topic, again, it goes kind of back to all those things we were kind of talking about before, where it's, you just started to that. Yeah, it takes that one thing out of the norm to flip your belief. Yeah. And do you ascribe to that particular belief? Is that something that? Well, yeah, because I say this all the time. I have friends that are big friends of mine that a silver ship landed in his backyard and came out and shook his hand and said, "Hey, I'm from Meyer." And the thing got back into it. He'd be like, "Yeah, that didn't fucking happen." Yeah, he's just so set in his mind that it's I don't want to ever believe that shit. That it doesn't matter. I experienced it, happened to me. I got proof or whatever. Not real. Yeah, in his mind, it's never going to be real. Yeah. So that
There's people like that. Well, that's never going to be real for them, right? So that all of that shit could have been happening. Look at them, and people say that all the time, going just like, yeah, fuck that. You don't like it, you know, just here, you know, once we go, fuck that. Right? So like, you gotta move away, but like, you gotta like at least believe that it's possible. Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, the majority of it, most of it's belief, and almost all of it's belief. And and you're right. I mean, I think anything that you're looking at, go back to Rosicrucianism. If you look at not Masonic Rosicrucianism, just Rosicrucian of the time period, right? And in the Cosmology came, you have this structure like passing through the sphere, right? And like Kabbalah, right? You have this like essentially moving through the Sephiroth, right? And you up or down or whatever, however it is. And, you know, in the Rosicrucian tradition, you probably had an aid, right? The aid of immunity or the holy guardian angel or whatever you want to call that. That was your aid to help get you through those spheres to, you know, to illuminate, or to take you to heaven or whatever you wanted to call it. Yeah. And, you know, that's what those guys, I think that type of cosmology was, they came through but I think they came through some of their accents, astrology. Right. Yeah, I think the Vedic, I believe the Vedic arts here was the foundation for all that. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt, but that's what I learned, with that Vedic principles. But you go back up before that, you go to Plato, the people go back and look at. I tend to think that a lot of stuff here started there. He has, I'm saying people from that, was right now, non-Catholic self. Yeah. I think corporal entities, like upper entities, whatever I call them. Yeah, if you look at the way these things have changed, I think, and you look at the way from different perspectives, and like, you know, agnosticism, right? Like, whole ideas to achieve gnosis, right? And it's we're putting this very generic, but it's your own understanding, right? It's your own self, right? Self. Yeah, and it's whatever, right? Yeah, of yourself. Yeah, if you look at like guys of those Protestant, Jacob Bull, however you call or pronounce his name. You look at some of like his writings, work is very powerful. In the sense that, at least when I read them, I feel a deeper connection to Christ, like, or to the thing that like I stepped, right? The Catholic, very Christianity, and that's so narrow-minded though, since it has sweet practices, right? But it really gives you an avenue, and it's crazy. Just in keyboard and to the Christ. Yeah. You hit it. You can tap into it. I think it's a thing. I think it's a practice. I think was to get to. And I think it does go on. But the Gnostic side was really like, was it? And I don't know, I heard, what Gnostic text it was, but it was like, some of you to call me out on this one, but it was basically, the Gnostics were on the hill when Jesus was being crucified, when they're laughing. Yeah. When they're like, they tell them, you're not going to get rid of the spirit, the consciousness, and so people are like, well, the Gnostics were laughing at you. So, like, what are they doing? But they're like, we just got to kill this dude, and that's going to be it. Yeah, right. Like, that's just, it's just wasting time, right? Like, that's and I think their belief is more like that. So, once you reach that level of self-awareness or that Christos or whatever, that Christ consciousness, it's like, you can stop it. You very well. But come back. Where is it with the bronze suit? Or, it's not a person, it's a thing. Yeah. That's what they call it. And I don't know. I like looking at it from all the directions. I look at it from the very literal interpretation level to that, all the way to that. Who's nailed? Yeah. I never considered that now. Again, all the things you forgot. Thank you. You falling asleep.
thinking about all this. Like, how did he get? Like, what's the UFO? Yeah, right. I'm not going to be thinking about this. It's all your fault. It's like a Superman story. You know, Jesus, like that thing that capsule landed and like gives it to Mary Poppins. Yeah, yeah. What did you have? It was like I'm just a carpenter. Yeah, right. But we know. See, that's a disguise. We knew you're full of us. Yeah, no doubt. What you don't everybody Jesus did. Yeah, that's well, you know, I don't know. Again, the cosmology, the way that people look at the world, you see it change. Oh, we see it change over years. Oh, no, they still that way today. You know, and now it's allowed. Who's going to get murdered? Hey, yeah. We can't, you can't monopolize it. Well, yeah, that's, yeah, in the U.S., right? But in the other parts of the world, like, we still can't screw around. Yeah, and it's sad, but that's true. Yeah. You think you can't be I'm sure masonry is not welcome in certain parts of the world, yeah? No, yeah, and a friend of mine, I can't remember where he was at. I'm trying to remember. I was one of the Eastern Bloc. I think it was an Eastern Bloc. Shit, how big you'd be like, he had like a, swear it comes on his back that we left the plane getting somewhere. We got too much in there and said, hey, that was it. Right, put that way. Does. Okay, it's not cool here. Yeah. Like they're out where he would find you for, I think. That's unfortunate. Well, I heard just years ago now that in Russia it's still. We can't do that. After you round it up, we have to rebase it yet, put you somewhere. Yeah. That's something in secret. Yeah. Like a secret. Like a secret. Like, yeah. Like their family. Like they don't have a lodge. You're not driving to downtown. No, you're going to be used to seeing some hair. Like there's no rings. There's like your family that's got it. Down. Right. That's crazy. Yeah, that's still happening. Or it was in parts of the world. Right. She's lucky. It is. Yeah. Yeah, well, you'd see the influence. It's just like, well, I get it. I mean, I get it. But I do. I get it from their side. Yeah. 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 But, well, if you're, it goes back to that age-old thing if you're not, you're seen as a threat. You're probably not only potentially political threat, but as you say you're undermining the government, you have plans to overthrow it. You know, I mean, that's something that if it's, in a dictatorship, those guys are constantly in fear or paying attention. I mean, not by fear. Evil. Like, good friends. Yeah, yeah. Like a French Revolution. Yeah. Yeah. A couple of revolutions there somewhere, but yeah. Yeah. Before we're done. Yes. We're out. We're going to do this. We're made it. Well, but yeah, no, I mean, that's called the fear book. Like I said, it's not unfounded. Yeah. They know they're fucking up. And they know so you're all alone. So I got a question for you about Rosicrucianism and Freemasonry. Well, let me ask you this, because I'm interested to hear your take on it. What do you feel there's a separate influence? I would say like through Rosicrucianism. Do you feel that it's like? Do you think it's are we romanticizing Rosicrucianism, and likewise with like on the Templar Knights? Are we romanticizing those things? Or is there do you think there's some truth to like actual practical elements to some of those things? Or in the sense of like Templar stuff, is there a tradition or something that's carried through and we're sort of like harboring remnants of this thing? Yeah. I think that there's the harboring of remnants. Definitely. I think that's pretty much, I think that's kind of being I think Templarism for sure was basically a catch-all for mystery schools with Eastern, Western, whatever, right? It was basically a repository. I think Masonry, one of the larger guards, was as well. Same thing with Rosicrucianism. I think that's basically we're going to kill over here. We're going to wrap this into this, keep it alive. The foundational truths, really, like you talk about all religions, like just this foundation of things. We thought there's the other stuff, like you said, that even if you're partly where an idea is inspired with use, right? You don't want to be
scan that shit out, right? Yeah, right. Bills from bank dates with the like that's what it is. But
So you're saying there's a potential that you're not really high enough degree Mason, that there's that we don't know.
look at that shit out. Very thick with that. Yeah, no, I think that like it's. I mean, and some of the stuff is you tell us. It's like the secrets are hidden for those who just discover it, right?
Yeah.
Cool. You know, I mean, you've gotten this far. Cool. Like, if you wanted to work, figure it out, you know. But did dues and bury the ring. But yeah, I think that there's definitely a repository. Because if not, I mean, we do that. It'd be like we elves or something.
Yeah, right. You don't need to be sitting here talking.
Yeah, right. And we would talk about those. But I really think that throughout history, there's, you know, entries made other countries. You know, throughout there's, you know, religions made other religions, and you know, look, I mean, I think the Nazis in World War II was burning buildings. You know, like, I mean, whatever you do, you're attacking civilization, puts their influence on. You know, that was it. Yeah, and then there's somehow they have to be traditional. Especially when it comes to this stuff, you know, that they're not so in your face type of A plus B equals C, you know, kind of spiritual, esoteric connections to divinity or whatever I call it. That's important. I think that's important. So that, and you can see what happens too. Like the Templars, they've been murdered too, right?
Yeah, right.
By the church. Yeah, because of vigorous threat, right?
Well, they're probably initially, you know, that was probably initially somebody's project. They were going to have these like spiritual knights that are fierce and going to be, you know, defend, you know, the church. And they probably got too secretive and too, yeah, you know, they were a threat. They were a threat to somebody in power. And they said, okay, well, we've had enough of you guys. And yeah, and it's sad.
Yeah, I mean, and that's probably, you know, so then when they're old in Masonry, right?
That's what it is. As possible.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of what happened. That old mission. I think the Redians, and yeah, that code for the like the.
Do you think the chivalry is there? Do you think the chivalry, like that sort of like knightly code?
Yeah, between Masons, yeah.
I mean, do you see that? Because I mean, you know, I think it's where you get like code from this paper from Templars, right, or something we had.
You talk about chivalry, right. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's an inherent theme that we sketch, right? More in degree of as the chivalry and the knights who they have for different countries. You know, they had shown chivalry to each other, right? Yeah, and that's probably I mean, you look at that as a Masonic virtue, right? Whether it was before or after or whatever, when he was what. Yeah, I think that's it.
Hey, send me another question too, right? Like Ian emphasized Rosicrucianism. Did Rosicrucianism influence Freemasonry? Or, because I think there's some question out there too. I've heard people raise a question, or was it a theory that, you know, Freemasonry, modern Freemasonry, that we know the more speculative Masonry, originated with the Rosicrucians? Yeah, I've heard that. You know, there's a theory out there too.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was taught that, you know, Mason was tying up a morning and before recorded. Yeah, so if you look at that at face value, then everything is included by Masonry, right? If it's before recorded history and Masonry existed, then everything following it was peaceful by Mason, right? We prove it. We proved 1717 and somebody in England decided to write a chart and they had lots. Right. But you and I know that had to way before that.
Yeah.
Non-predictably anyway.
Yeah. But I think you even we chase back the ancient charters, right? The Regis manuscript. Although you look at stuff like that, to me that screams that like chivalric code. Even if you're in the sense of an operative, I mean, they had tools.
Right.
And I tried to explain this to somebody, you know, the other day. I was at Mason. It was like, it's the importance of like tools. And you could imagine, even for a Mason to say, I think it's fascinating. It's like if you were going to be doing work and say that was your job, and I know it's because my background, I'm a carpenter. So I know that like the importance of the tools that I have.
Yeah.
So when you're working with them and we say you're building these great cathedrals as houses to, worship and pay homage to the deity, right? That when you're working with the tools that you're working with, you're doing something spiritual with the tools, right? You're really creating, something that's facet, something that is spiritual. You putting that work to work, right? Mm-hmm. And that's like, if you look at those tools in that fashion, the ones that you're working in every day, I pull out my square or I pull out my, we call it Kabbalah, you know what I'm saying? All. Like, when you're using those are the thoughts that are running through your head. Like, when I'm striking this, like, I'm doing it with intent. I should probably leave that camera. Yeah, I think those foundational elements, they continue to resonate. Mm-hmm. On operatism, and you get into the speculative nature. And that's when I think Rosicrucianism came in. Because, you really can't, you got to really track that back. Things like that. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, and then, Rosicrucians, or Rosicrucians, what I can like him also. Yeah, and I think that was a real person. Yeah, or a bunch of people over it. Right? But, whoever it was, that was the modern iteration of it. And I think it's always just people looking for answers, people doing the work, people putting in the time, effort, and going above and beyond the norm to find something. Yep. So look for something to help. Help whatever. If it's our own, or if it's the like society. We're still doing it, and you can call it how you want, but I think it's always happened. Shaman or whatever, right? It can happen in their society without never in culture. That's what it is. And I think at some point, people started having records, recording things that they decided that it should be organized or something. Yeah. Same we heard nothing else. Yeah, I think enough to. Yeah, the tradition. Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure that 2,000 years from now, it could be something, a formula that probably recognize. It's amazing it's existed as long as it has in the same form that you and I has. Well, but it really has. We call it red, right? Some of the ritual, the way people, correct. In different jurisdictions, you look at Masonry, or look at like spiritual, ranks of like higher grade Freemasonry, looking where are the 1700s and things like that. And this is like 500 degrees, giving rated up degrees. And you had different magical systems, right? And that were, but they still had this like Masonic, and all of it is, like the OTO, the Golden Dawn, they're all just offshoots of like Masonic influence, right? Can be, that's it. They have that foundation. The lighter at the OTO was just a bunch of Mason. Went down that, right? Yeah. And then, same over the one dog, it's just a bunch of Masons. So we went down, we're like, we can't do this in Lodge, this thing. Yeah, they're excited. Like, people, like the Aryan brothers, they're different mess. Yeah. So we're going to do it over here, right? So, you don't even stay being ones inside of Masada, but you got to brought. Like the Rosicrucian Act, right? Now, why are we doing all the shit in Masada to review clean art college, right? Yeah. I'm basically can we do that rule? Yeah, I guess a lot of people would why people ask people just screaming at you about known facts. About Islam. Not freaking at you when they talk about that. Well, always try to give them a side disclaimer up front. I was like, this is, I'm presenting it, from this perspective, this is not an outline Masonic law, there's no grand law, and I go down that road, and this is my Masonic disclaimer. Yeah. So if you want to attack it, it's sort of cool, or just taking the question, but yeah. I think in most cases, and I've given people that answer, it's like, for people to ask me a question, I'm like, well, what does that mean to you? Let me ask you, what does it mean to you? And then, most of the time, they hate to get that big answer, but it's like, until you're kind of like working with it or experiencing it. I mean, you look at some of like the alchemical plates and things like that. I mean, those are a recipe for one guy practicing one certain way, and the way that he viewed, whether it was the elements or, whether he was looking at mercury as a solid or was salt a liquid or was salt you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, not that works for everything. Yeah, you have to approach it from its own, the own system from a practitioner standpoint. I think until you can put yourself in that position, and people, and the scary part about many of these traditions is that when the thing, like when you come into Freemasonry and you start Googling and you start looking at all these things and you find a Rosicrucian, they find the things about Kabbalah, and then something about the Golden Dawn pops up, or, something about, Martinism pops up, or, you talk about the temple, all these other things that might pop up. How do you discern like what's right and what's wrong? And it's very can be confusing, sort of be very overwhelming. Maybe until you like gently approach certain things, you can't understand that underlying truth that it's talked about, right? Yeah. So until you see the shit in the sky, have nothing to do with that. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So you follow them, they come, it's still not believable. So I'm going to hit you the question here because I'm really interested. What was probably like, out of your interviews, asking you're probably going to be dissing somebody in the sense that if you don't mention them, I'm going to put you on the spot. Because you get me with all the, like, Jesus and I saying to get me back. Yeah. So, like, who's your probably favorite guest? Like, or I mean, something like, do some of your highlights. Because I know I've seen some of them, and I had some of the ones that I felt went really well. But what do you say? It's like the ones that surprise me, I think, are the ones that stand. I mean, all of us obviously are random, but the ones that surprise me most are like Patricia Vaught was one that really surprised me. She's awesome, man. She's I'm on Twitter all the time at UFO Twitter, but I found out this popped up. He was like, he was we go black people see you better. It's not the movie, it's the name of the movie. Yeah, no way, right? So like it's free, right? So I watched the movie, like the most amazing footage I've ever seen. Like not like anything I've ever seen. It's not a disc, it's not a ball, it just looks like something alive in the sky. Like jellyfish. I don't know if you've seen any of this stuff. It's like an undulating, rainbow colored, globulous kind of thing. And sometimes comes into a solid form, it was out and stable, she would film it from her house. That's true. She'd lay on the floor, hours. She'd lay on the floor from like 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Stuff would be there. So, you could go from nighttime to daytime, so in the sky, and then but it looked like something alive in the sky that I've never seen like that before. This is and so, that American lady from Michigan that didn't have anything to do with any of this shit. But yeah, right? It's just like this wasn't her bag, right? Obviously, this wasn't her bag at all. Right? But it happened, and we started off her experience that she saw 2 orange balls, kind of like we saw the orange work thing. They heard her song, and they were like in between apartment buildings, so like so low, and close to me. They got freaked out, and after that, she started something else. So I took around and said that the orange ball, like that. Until you see the orange like that, you see how but like that really surprised me. We did, and it surprised me her perspective on not only race, but the phenomena itself, religion, all of those things. She's very well read, amazing, so glad that saw her friend and with the doctor and I went in just from Ludwig's spot. Like after I saw the video, she had somebody. It was like a creepy generated voice, so she didn't bury it. She just got put it out there and she was texting the tree and stuff. And it was really interesting to get her perspective from a person of color. We was like 99% I'm just going to white dudes, we chicks. They're like, I saw them, Like honestly, you see any brown, black people? No, you don't. Yeah. And for me, that was like big. And I wanted to know why. I was like, why? Is it not really happening? Or is it just not talked about? And we did a couple interviews, and I'm going to talk to her again too because she's just awesome. But
Then she really gave some really good insight. Yeah, it's funny. I made a little clip of it, but it's like, she said, and I'm paraphrasing here. She's like, basically, it's like, you're black, you got to be worried about shit that most black worried about. You just got to worry about walking out my door, we're going to get shot, I'm going to get arrested today for something, for just living, right? I have bills big, I don't do all the shit, I just got to, most people that live, deal with that on a daily basis. She's like, I walk outside and see a UFO. She's like, it's beautiful, but who gives a fuck about a UFO? Yeah, and this is what I said. I was like, we can talk about a UFO. She's like, what's it going to do for me? She's like, obviously, it's not going to come down here and dig me out of this situation. So it's like, if I start telling people about it, it's just going to make my shit worse. Yeah. If I start telling people, people are going to be like, oh, you're just fucking crazy. She's like, I don't need any more bullshit. I've already heard any of that bullshit just being me. Yeah. And she said that that's why she made the movie. And that's why she named it Black People Do See UFOs, is because of the stigma. She said she wanted to release the stigma from people of color, not speeding up about it. Yeah, but she's a good fucking happen all the time. So like, it happens probably more so people of color than it does white people just running up and talking about it. Black people are like, yeah, fuck it. It's always like they just yeah, it's happening all the time. It's just fucking happening all the time. They just like, whatever. But just because they have that impression is, or their perception is that they put a talk about us from. Yeah. So that was really one of the ones that I was like, wow, man, because I never, put myself in a position. I always had the question, why is it there? But for the different ethnicities, but they are, they just don't talk about it. Yeah. So that was one of the ones there that stood out to me. It was, wow. So there's, and like we talk about, there's perceptions inside of your own cultural circle, right? Yeah. But then across the board, the others, and like, that's one of those stigmatized. Yeah, it's stigmatized so much so in their own community that, it's just, you can't talk there. That's crazy. Yeah. So that was a really, that really put a lot of things in perspective for me. It's awesome that she had the courage to do that. Like, to be able to, I think anybody that puts themselves out like that too, right? I mean, that's a, like, if you write something special, she absolutely did. Oh, yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that, like, that would be my fear. Like, if I saw something, I'd probably give it to you. You're like, I look at you know, when people send me down, like, at least you do something. Yeah, I don't like, make my voice sound like they're I'm gonna sound like it's weird. Right? Yeah, for sure. But like, I get it, man. There's that social stigma still. Yeah, and I think that really what the government's do all. It's like 17 was like really trying to break that wall down. I guess like the slow. We tried to do it for like 7 years, but I think that now they're really trying. That you're really trying to, like, before it was like you reported it if you're a pilot and you're grounded, you go to go psychophile. Now it's like, okay, you report it. I think it really just kind of what they do here. Now some you can listen to it, but it's not negatively telling against the military, not civilian, from what I understand. So yeah, it's still that. I mean, there's still more reports, there's still more civilian pilots that are still coming out and going, pulling in together, like, this is but it is, was it a safety as you the flight together, like, is it, whatever it is, and still, so that's, I think that paradigm's changed. I think that's kind of what this whole, acclamation is, to get people to be more comfortable with the idea that there's something we don't understand. Yeah, so I think that's the big push, but I still think that we're going to barrier with people with color. And I would say, I mean, that's type of Patricia, that means more evident. That's talking to other people that now, recently there, or black people that have had experience, their experiencers too, and they say the same thing. It's not, they're afraid of something's happened to them and they're looking for answers and they have really nowhere to turn to, and they feel more alone in their own communities. And the sad part is, and the shit part that Patricia too, is like when she reached out, but like I said, majority white, really, that she was attacked, like, for being bold. It was racing me and just shitty stuff. I just drove her off of Twitter, believe it or not. I mean, she was really up there, and she was in like, she'll get probably like a wooden GOP film, because So like women as well, we just still typically for women not to get involved. And there's more now, coming into it, but so just when you like you. Yeah. So like she was, part of like getting that together, and she's that's all. And so that was like she was like, I'll fuck them out. But like I said, like I think with like the tide is slowly turning. We let like on. But you got other people out of jail too. I mean, it seems like you got people from all over the world. Travel to and like there's just a variety. It's a really cool people on things too. Yeah, it's just I don't want to find them. They find me. Yeah, I mean, it's just can't go with it. The irritation with some people that are really interesting and into it. And some people are like, I'm not. I mean, so you can't get into whatever most people are into, but I think everybody has like whatever their belief is, what they believe. I mean, that's it. We believe it. Yeah, I'm just gotta take everything. Yeah, I try to take it all in, and not hold all of it as like completely true, but look at all of it as like, well, the big picture of it, like, well, maybe this is part of this and whatever else. I think that's probably the best way to look at that, to not just get attached to something and believe this is it, because I mean, no one was ever going to figure the whole thing out. But I think if you get enough general idea, a wide enough variety of people that fit experiences from all over the place, you might find a pattern or, see something right. But like I said, I don't belittle anybody or put anybody down for their belief. I mean, they could believe that I'm purple, and if they really believe it, that's cool. Yeah, but we got they'll let people believe what they all believe. Yeah,
well, it's going to be the other thing too. I would imagine with like some of the technology, like people they have like altered videos. Even back in the day, I still feel like I watched an episode of like Unsolved Mysteries or something. There's like some dude with like two paper plates glued together. He's like, it was a stick, or they figured out it was like fake, or I don't know. I feel like I have this like. I've seen something like that.
Oh, they did like video and technology now. Now there's apps that are like fake UFO apps. I think it's like where you can just take it, just put a fake UFO on.
That's probably part of their whole laughing gag, right?
No, yeah. I mean, that was always part of the whole like just make it,
make it hard on these humans.
Yeah.
Dude. By the time they figure us out, we'll have this. No one will believe them anyway.
Yeah. Oh, Ted and I were texting today. We're having a conversation, and it was like, we were going. They just Ted and I just random text about it. When I just dropped some crap, bizarre stuff on. It was mad. But he was like, what? Whether we see like angels or whatever up to homes, like what's the perception process? I said, well, what's our perception of ants? Like, I'm not going to try to go down in a conversation with an ant. I'm not communicating with this ant. It's there.
Yeah.
I'm not purposely trying to kill it. I'm not, I'm indifferent. It's whatever that's what how ages or another higher intelligences tell us. Fucking indifferent is they're so spiritually involved or whatever, physically whatever, that we're just like, squish. We're like an amoeba to them, It's like, I don't know what this is. Cross them the path.
Yeah. This ant, his buddies just meditated and called me here for what?
Right. It's like, what are these guys doing? Yeah. What are you guys doing? They went in the land for it.
Oh, look, they're laughing. That's great.
Take a picture, Bill. Take a picture. They're on top of it. No, I don't know. But I mean, even if they were saying that it's cool that you at least allow yourself the freedom to be able to have this conversation. Yeah, the thoughts. Yeah, without even rid of thought. I don't give a shit about anything's fun to you. So. Never have. Fucking.
Yeah, most people. Well, it's only way if they get too much better. People, but they even crap.
Nah. Let's take a break.
Yeah.
All right. It's been awesome.
It's a cool, man.
Yeah.
All right. See.
We'll stop the scene. Cool. Dude, that's right.
Yeah, we talked for a while. This is going to be a jam.
2 hours?
Yeah.
My legs are falling asleep.
So how do you go through it like chop stuff up?